CTE teachers. And so it is great pleasure on my part from CITEA to present Mr. Fredette and Balboa Middle School with the Outstanding Middle School Program for the state of California.
Well, thank you. I didn't realize I had to speak to get this award. But it's, yes, that's right. Once again, I appreciate the recognition, and thank you. It's quite the honor. Thanks very much. So.
Okay, moving right along, in terms of good news, we have, each time we meet, we have the opportunity to pull from a series of individuals who've been nominated for gratitude awards, and I have the opportunity to share just a few of those. So we take portions of the write-ups and share them with the community. So we have 3 tonight to share. The first, and I'll wait for the scrolling to start. No, you're right on. There's information that'll be shared on the screen that I won't be reading, but I'm going to be highlighting 3 individuals. So the first is Daniel Cisneros, a custodian at Lincoln Elementary. During his time at Lincoln Elementary, he's been a model employee. He continues to maintain the exterior of the school. He's actually set up a reward system for kids who help him at lunch, and rewards them with little objects of his appreciation when they complete the assignments that they've been given. So he's continuing to create that culture of recognition and acceptance at that campus. The next individual is Jonathan Colmenares in the technology department. Jonathan is considered to be responsive and a quick fix. He stays busy, continues to be part of a team, and goes above and beyond every single day. And he cannot be thanked enough. And our last individual is Michael Hertenstein, teacher at Balboa, who is recognized as providing equal learning opportunities for all students in a challenging and enriching environment, one where he shows his passion every single day. He's an amazing math teacher, but is incredibly hardworking and funny, and he cares deeply about his craft. And so please join me in thanking them for their recognition and for their efforts. Okay, I think that's my portion.
Okay, so now we'll have our student board reports. Subbing for us from Foothill High School is Josh Gelman. Josh, you want to start out?
So we had a couple events this quarter. The Wren Rally, which was St. Patrick's Day themed, and it was a vibrant event. Had lots of different things there, including Mr. Softy, Lucky Charms, a photo booth, and also Liquid Death. We had a spirit week leading up to the event on Friday, which started off with Pajama Day, Pie Day, Class Color War Day, and then Soccer Mom versus Barbecue Dad. And then last day, the Wren Rally was wear your Wren shirt or green. And then, yeah. We had a dance. The Secret Garden Dance was a fun-filled event with an awesome DJ that kept the energy high. For those who didn't want to dance, there was Mario Kart and drinks and games outside. We had a sophomore donut day, which was very sweet and exciting for all the sophomores to have some donuts. And we had a raffle at the end. The senior-only academic rally is coming up and is a distinguished event that celebrates the academic excellence of seniors as recognized by their teacher recommendations. This occasion also recognizes senior contributions to the community and honors their accomplishments in various academics. The end of the event includes a toast with the senior cohort, accompanied by speeches from academy leaders and other notable guests. We have an upcoming prom, which is scheduled for April 29th, and will offer an array of entertainment options, ensuring the students have a memorable experience. There will be board games, DJ, and some food. Next is Senior Recess, which is a unique event that provides an opportunity for seniors to relieve nostalgic memories from the past. The seniors are treated to a variety of snacks and classical games from their elementary school days. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Holden, would you like to tell us about El Camino High School?
Yeah. All right. So first up, our knowledgeable team, consisting of Nora, Ashley, Araceli, Emma, Mubin, and Sess, played consecutively last month, 3 Wednesdays in a row, and out of 13 teams in the county, our team placed in the top half of the competition. Right. And next, our students of the months from March are Camden C, Craig C, Rocky K, Riley H, Zen B, Kennedy M, and Callie F. And then our students of the months for now are Jordan B, Leona C, Jaden M, Noah M, Chelsea N, Rama P, and Blossom V. So. And then a couple weeks ago, we had our casino night where at the first half, we had our music club play a live band, and were very well received. And we had games such as Blackjack, Texas Hold'em, and yeah. And then on April 20th, May 10th, and August 9th at 4 p.m., we are having our information night for students who are looking to join our school. And then for our upcoming events, on April 25th, we have our Mr. Softy fundraiser. On the 27th, we have our VC registration. And on the 28th, we have our prom. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Holden. And now from Ventura Adult and Continuing Education, Alex.
Good evening. My name is Alex Castro. I'm enrolled in the Computerized Financial Accounting Program at Ventura Adult and Continuing Education. VACE maintains our focus on the VUSD Board of Education priorities for the 2022-23 school year. VACE High School Diploma Program continues to partner with VUSD and high schoolers from Ventura High, Buena High, Foothill Tech, and El Camino. VACE has helped students to recover over 1,050 credits so far this year, assisting juniors and seniors towards their graduation goals. Our caregiver class was a huge success. This class provides advanced ESL students with an opportunity to acquire job-specific language as well, the fundamental CTE skills needed to pursue a career in caregiving. Students learn basic medical terminology and hands-on skills such as basic CPR and how to transfer patients from a wheelchair to a walker. The 15 students who successfully completed the free program are eligible to register on the California Caregiver Registry. VACE is honored to present the Hero of the Heart Award to Stephanie Gomez. Stephanie actually saved the life of a community member when she witnessed an accident and on her way to class. She took action, she used her CTE medical skills and performed CPR on this grateful person until paramedics arrived on the scene and could take over. After the incident, Stephanie drove to VACE to attend her medical boot camp class. Way to go, Stephanie, you're amazing. CTE Student of the Month for February was awarded to Yvette Reyes from our Computerized Financial Accounting class. Yeah. For March, Jesse Barajas from Graphics for Web and Print was chosen. Jesse completed his program ahead of schedule and has already been recruited for a job. Our CTE classes will train you and help you successfully find a job in the career pathway you choose to pursue. VACE's computer-aided design team had an opportunity to partner with the Ojai Raptor Center's educational program to recreate 3D facsimiles of raptor skulls for display at their educational center. Students used the new Rapid Prototype 3D printer for this project, led by instructor Josh Ball. This community outreach project was designed to encourage students to make observations, take measurements, and to compare and contrast the different species for educational purposes and training. Upcoming events. Our free computer basics class is beginning another session Tuesday and Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. at Junipero Serra School. Beginning students will learn how to search the internet, find resources online, look for jobs, create and use email, and participate in video calls. This pilot program is being made possible through a partnership with the Ventura Economic Development Collaborative. On Wednesday, VACE's CTE medical students will partner with Valiant for our biannual blood drive. Our medical students are excited to practice their skills by making appointments and will participate in the event. The blood drive is open to all VACE students. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
We'd like to thank all three of you for your wonderful presentations, and as usual, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to go home and do your homework, whatever else you want to do. So, with that, we have one piece of correspondence. Dr. Castro, will you share it with us, please?
Thank you, Vice President Dannenberg. And on our students' way out, I actually want to thank them and call attention to something that they're doing exceptionally well. I want to thank Josh also for filling in for his Foothill colleague. If you notice on their presentation slides, you saw statements about culture and climate, academic achievement, and ed options. At the beginning of this year, we started working with the students and asked them to demonstrate that our board priorities show up at their schools. And so I just want to compliment them that their awareness of our alignments and what we hope for the students, that we want to see, that they see our priorities in their daily life. So I actually want to thank them for their leadership because, as we know, that level of leadership is not just reflective of what they experience in their schools, but also they are emissaries for us in our community. So I know they're gone now, but I do want to thank them. Because, you know, they're going to, yeah. Because they're going to go back and they're going to watch this later on. Okay, and to correspondence, on April 17th, we received correspondence from the County Office of Education based on our second interim review. The County Office noted that they agree with the district's positive certification. However, there were some key comments. We were commended for spending down reserves, but noted deficit spending to $14.5 million. It is important for the community to note that that's down from $21 million earlier in the year. We're continuing to work on that deficit. And there is a reminder from the county office that failure to minimize deficit spending could jeopardize fiscal solvency for the district, including its ability to meet requirements. It's imperative that we continue to develop an action plan with significant ongoing expenditure reductions to align with the loss of ongoing revenue due to declining enrollment. So this board knows, our team knows, and our community knows that we are absolutely dedicated to reducing that deficit, and we will continue to put our efforts on there, but this is a good first step from where we were just a few months ago.
Any questions? If not, any other correspondence by any of the other board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comments. And I know that we have another award to start with, and then Dr. Castro will call out the public comments. During public comments, people get 3 minutes and will be limited to 3 minutes. Marianne will run a timer and let you know when your time's up. While we don't comment on them, we will be taking notes. So when you're called, please be ready to speak. Dr. Castro.
Okay, thank you. So we have first public comments. It'll be Brian Brennan, then Alicia Levere, and then Lindsay Zybach.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair, board members, and staff. My name's Brian Brennan. I'm with the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, and with me this evening is Aaron Gaston. And I just wanted to let you know that Cabrillo Middle School not only won the middle school band category, but won the overall category for the parade. And we recognize, yeah. And we're just going to give you a little bit of a taste of what everybody on the parade route got a chance to experience, and you'll understand why they won. like I said, just a taste of what everybody along the parade route experienced. This was our 36th year as the parade. Wanted to say again, thank you to the school district. We used Facilitron to rent your the parking lot at Cabrillo. Not the reason they won, I might add. It's the second year, but their float was decorated incredibly well. And I've got to send a huge shout out from the judges to Maya, who did Aretha Franklin proud.
That was awesome.
I will tell you. Yeah, sang respect all the way. Yeah. You got, Aaron, you want to say something? Yeah. I just want to say you have an incredible amount of talent in your school zone. I know you know it. But this program, Mario Bacali has just brought it forward. When I was a mayor a number of years ago, I remember just recognizing it was up and coming and won awards everywhere. So let me just show you. This is just the band award.
The big boy.
This is what they really won. This is the Arnold Hubbard Award. And it was, this is 36 years, and their name's on it here, so you can be proud. And Mario, I don't know, this is about as big as you and me, so I'll let you take it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And thank you for fitting all of that into the public comments. We will be inviting a more comprehensive recognition our next meeting on May 9th. So next public comment is Alicia Levere, and then Lindsay Zybach.
Good evening, honorable trustees. My name is Alicia Levere. I currently have 2 children at Loma Vista Elementary School. I serve on the PTA, the school site community council, and I also live directly behind the school. We recognize the privilege of having access to the campus and look forward to continued use of the space outside of school hours. As we all know, the safety of our children is of utmost importance. Schools are meant to be safe spaces for our children to learn, grow, and flourish. However, in today's world, it is imperative that we take proactive measures to ensure that our schools are safe from any potential threats. Fencing and secure perimeters will help prevent unauthorized access to the school grounds, ensuring that our children are safe and secure within the school premises. It is crucial to note that installing fencing and secure perimeters is not just about deterring potential threats, but also about creating a sense of security and peace of mind for our children and their families. When parents drop off their children at school, they should feel confident they are leaving them in a safe environment. Prior to the fencing being installed at Loma Vista, it was possible for anyone to walk directly from the street into a classroom at any time without being noticed. As a parent, this left me with a pit in my stomach every time I dropped my children off in the morning. When Loma Vista School was built, security was not at the forefront of anyone's mind, but unfortunately, times have changed, and I can assure you that as parents, school shootings have crossed our minds as we question if our children are safe at school. So I want to thank the district for installing fencing to increase security for our children and the school staff. By creating a physical barrier between potential perpetrators and students and staff, fencing can deter or delay unauthorized access to the school, and every second counts. In conclusion, it is important to recognize that the loudest voices in opposition to fencing may not always represent the broader community. Many of these voices do not have children at the school, and often those who are most vocal are a small group of individuals who hold extreme views and have personal agendas. As a parent who is on campus daily, the support for increased security is supported by a majority of parents and staff. Therefore, it is important for decision makers such as yourselves to consider the opinions of all stakeholders and to ensure that they are making decisions that best reflect the interests of the entire community, not just a small group of vocal individuals. I beg of you, do not let these voices further delay the continued efforts to make our schools safer.
10 seconds.
Let's be honest, fencing is just the beginning. Updated and secure windows also need to be installed. And I thank you.
After Lindsay will be Sue Curtis and Jen Schwartzengruber, or Schwarzentruber.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Zebak. I'm a journalist, a filmmaker, and a mom of a kindergartner at Loma Vista Elementary. And I'm so proud to be your neighbor because this community is safe and connected and committed to promoting the Ventura way of life that has made us all feel at home. I know the new fencing is controversial, but I also know that if we get to the root of the matter, we really are all on one team. There are 2 points that I think this team, VUSD, can agree on. First, we want our kids to be safe. That means that students feel safe when they're on campus, and parents know there's evidence-based security in place. I am sweating profusely. And second, a safe school is the heart of a safe neighborhood. I am thankful for these gates because they create the kind of access control that the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and Sandy Hook Advisory Commissions agree is a critical component of a school safety plan. And I cite these commission names with a lump in my throat, but the knowledge that if we do not want to become a commission of experts, then we have to heed the advice from those who have. Preventing unauthorized access while students are on campus is a basic, universally recommended security measure, even outside of violent emergencies, but it's still only an element of a comprehensive strategy, and our daily Ventura-specific safety requires proportionate attention alongside any plan for the unthinkable, unlikely event. And the data is consistent. The most important thing schools can do to ensure safety is to foster a supportive, trusting environment, making sure every kid feels respected and connected and like they belong. There is no singular training or assembly that can solve everything every kid is dealing with, so it's a multidisciplinary approach. In addition to expert-endorsed security upgrades, our kids deserve a preventative system that builds their skills around conflict resolution, stress management, and empathy. In every data set, the literature points to school climate as the greatest indicator of a healthy campus, but those skills have to be taught, and thankfully there's publicly available curricula to help us do so. In conjunction with the physical measures and the social climate, we need an evidence-based intervention model where trained staff work together to identify and support kids who need help the most. And yes, I know that means resources, which means money, but when it comes to protecting what we love most, I know we'll find a path forward. Our principals, staffs, and teachers truly lead with love, and I am asking for your support to make that love actualized, preventative, and pervasive in every VUSD student's experience with research-based strategy that grows from community conversation like this. As you make plans for both social climate and infrastructure, I also implore you to keep teachers at the table because it is they who know the campuses best, and it's they who keep our kids' safety first. Thank you so much for hosting this forum tonight.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jen Schwartzentruber. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And I am a parent of a child at Loma Vista. She's in 4th grade now. I'm also a PTA member and volunteer. I just want to speak about my own experience, and I want to speak in reference to the fence at Loma Vista. As some of you know, I've been engaged deeply in this topic now for months. And I've met with many of you, as well as letters, emails, meetings, public meetings, private meetings, invitations, closed-door meetings, and even VUSD staff. And I felt like we got really into the topic and into the weeds of the topic of the fence at Loma Vista. And for as grateful as I am to be involved in that discussion and to feel like we were really making headway with having diverse voices at the table, it seemed as though something shifted, and the last meetings, committee meetings that took place did not involve those of us that had been invested in the discussions up until even just a couple of months ago. And so I'm here mostly to advocate for the process, to have diverse voices at the table, to not hand-pick committees to move agendas forward. And sadly, I feel like there's a false narrative that there's a group of parents that don't want the fence and a group of parents that do want the fence. In actuality, the fence is not the big issue. It was the type of fence and it was the placement of the fence. And as we spend these precious dollars on making our schools safer and improving school climate, I would just really like us to be mindful about the type of fence and the placement, because what we do today is going to last for decades. and it speaks to who we are. I always think we need to get back to the question, is this who we are? Is this the future that we want for families moving forward in our Ventura lifestyle and community that we cherish so much? And perhaps there's better fencing and a process where, again, diverse voices can be part of that conversation and part of those decision-making processes. Particularly what happened in the last month or so with Loma Vista really sends a message that makes me feel discouraged to be involved, because I was involved and then I wasn't involved. So I want to continue to advocate for our children and for their safety, and I would love for us to focus on efforts that truly do that. Most school shootings happen on closed campuses. So what are we doing to keep all the kids engaged, identify at-risk students, and really work on the root cause of what leads to school shootings, which really gets down to engagement, trust, and relationships. Thank you.
The next speakers will be Kate Stevens and Sean Mahoney. Was Sue Curtis? Because Sue Curtis was, okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue, and I live across the street from Loma Vista Elementary School, and I don't have any children there, never have had. I've been in the neighborhood for about 20 years now, and I've used the school to take children that I do daycare after hours to play on the swing, not the swings, the slide, play ball, do whatever. It's been a safe, closed-in area where I can feel confident that the children are safe. So I'm all in favor of protecting our children. However, why does it have to be, why do the neighbors have to be locked out of it after hours? I mean, we need a place to go. There's nowhere. I'm old and I don't like to drive too much anymore. So walking over there with kids that I may be watching doing childcare has been a blessing for me. And so why do we have to be locked out after hours, after school hours? I think it should be open so that the whole neighborhood, there's lots of kids that go over there from the neighborhood and play on weekends and stuff like that. And I think it's unfair that we're locked out all of a sudden. And that's just my feelings.
Hi there, good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have a funny British accent. I've been here for 14 years. It's still a work in progress, my American accent. But I'm grateful that Ventura accepted me into the community and this is home. I have a fourth grader who's at Juana Maria, and we have been just blessed with the most amazing teachers from kindergarten through to fourth grade. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you do every day to support those teachers, because it's we're very snobbish about education in Britain, and it's been fantastic. So I've been really delighted and want to thank you all for the work and effort that you do. In choosing an elementary school, because I didn't understand the system, I went and looked at most of the elementary schools in the district, and there were so many that could have been a good fit for my daughter. So I know that whilst we've had such a great experience at Juana Maria, there are many other places where she could have really thrived. And that's a great credit to you all and the work that you do. Because she's in fourth grade, I'm now looking at middle schools, and it absolutely terrifies me, A, raising a teenager, and B, middle school in general. And one of the things that is daunting to me is some of the class sizes that I see. And they seem incredibly large, and I wonder how an 11-year-old is truly going to thrive and potentially get missed in this this kind of much larger environment that I see. And they're much larger class sizes than we see in many countries in Europe. And that's concerning to me. It's also concerning to a number of friends of mine who then are starting to look at private schools and looking at going outside the district to provide middle school education for their children. And I think that's just a tremendous, tremendous shame. So I wanted to have an opportunity to kind of raise that here and just to say I would love it if we could look at those class sizes to see, I know nothing about education, but is there any way to make them smaller? And many people here tonight have raised the issue of security in schools. I know nothing about fences or security. Unfortunately, nothing about shootings either. What I do know from a mental health perspective is that many of our teenagers are getting lost. And these very large class sizes, it worries me that some of these at-risk children are more likely to get lost in that system. So it kind of brings me back to that you have some wonderful teachers, and we've been the benefit of
30
those.
seconds.
So anything that we can do to try to make sure that all children are seen, and so those children who are at risk, we can really get our arms around and protect. Thank you for all the work that you're doing and the time. I appreciate it.
Next is Sean Mahoney, then Anthony Ventura.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sean Mahoney. I'm a resident here in Ventura. I have a little brother who attends Balboa Middle School, and you guys do a great job with him. He is a handful sometimes, but he loves it there, you know, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I'm also a member of the local 805 Southwest Carpenters Union, and I'm here in support of Measure E, and look forward to community welfare agreement, or workforce agreement, sorry. I can't read my writing sometimes. But thank you guys for having this meeting and allowing me to come and speak.
After Anthony Ventura will be Bill Swiatek.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Ventura. I am a representative with the Southwest Mountain States Carpenters, but tonight I come to you as a grandpa. I have a grandson that goes to Mountain School. He's in 4th grade as well. I think that Measure E, I do support Measure E. I walked for it. We all walked for it, I should say. And we do look forward to it. I look forward to knowing that the kids are going to have AC, which, you know, we all know, some of us, not everybody believes in it, but I do believe that we are having climate change. I've lived in Ventura County for almost 30 years, and I've seen it go from a coastal town where it's usually about maybe 78 during the summer, and now we put AC in our house. We live on the towards the east side, towards Satakoy, and there's days that during the summertime, we all know they peak at like over 100 degrees. So I know when I put the AC in, my wife thought, oh, you're wasting money. Now she's always like turning the thing on. So I know that she appreciates it. I know I appreciate it. But I do want to commend this board as a resident here of the city of Ventura, and I do look forward to putting people here locally, whether it's Ventura or surrounding areas. I had a big part in the Oxnard PLA, and I do support the oversight committee because I do think that you got to have checks and balances. It's good. It keeps everybody honest and makes sure things are done right, and picking people from the community versus, you know, just picking random people. I mean, these people are random, but they're from the community, and they're just like everybody out here, you know, just regular citizens. So I just want to tell you guys are doing a great job, and we look forward to putting some AC in those schools and putting some local people to work. Thank you.
After Bill will be Lisa Warnock and Deborah Maya Morris.
Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Bill, and I'm a letter that I wrote to the school board a couple weeks ago. I'm a neighbor and homeowner on Agnes, and have been watching these large metal fences and gates get installed at Loma Vista School. I have heard from petitions on the future of this local school and talks of closing this campus to the local community. I understand they want to keep the kids safe by installing gates and fences, but have not heard anything from the school districts or any outreach to the community regarding these changes to our school. I am all for the safety of our children, as I had a son who attended the school for 6 years. I have raised a child in the area as well, and my son learned to walk, ride a bike, skateboard, play basketball, baseball, and many other activities outdoors. This is our local park. I've just voted for the bond for our schools to have funding to improve the lives of our children. I would hate to say that I'm funding these gates and closure of our schools. I am sure these gates and fences were not cheap. My ask is that there's a balance of safety of our children and still have access to the school after hours, weekends, holidays, and summer. I ask that you put an after-hour use on the agenda for the future. A closed campus during the day and during school hours is a great idea, as is mentioned earlier from many of our visitors. But there was a great way for the community to access the school after hours. There's a janitor that arrives on the school after hours and is there until 9 to 10, Monday through Friday. The janitor could easily have the gates open until his departure and then close the gates for the next morning. Friday night, he could leave them for the weekend when our kids want to play basketball and hang out on the grass. Same goes for holidays and during the summer. Will you and the school board please develop a process to ensure the continuation of community access and how we, the people, and the local homeowners in the area be kept in a loop? This school has been open for 70 years, and I've been on the grounds after hours for 12 of those years, and have never seen any vandalism or vacancies at the school. But I have seen families raising their children, talking, taking walks, and enjoying the grass and beautiful grounds in Loma Vista. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lisa Warnock, and I'm a parent of a first grader at Loma Vista. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. When I looked on the board's website to find information for this meeting, I saw up top Ventura Unified School District for the future of every student. And I think that's why so many of us are here today, because the future of our kids has never felt so unsteady, so fragile, and frankly frightening for us parents. So I want to first thank the district for getting the fence and gates installed. In the face of backlash over closing the campus to the community, you honored the mission of protecting the future of every student by helping create a safer learning environment for our kids. We know these gates aren't going to eliminate all risk, but how can we protest the few minutes or seconds of a head start that this gives our kids? Whether it saves one life, how can we protest that? They're worth every inconvenience and every sacrifice this community can make. And while the fence and gates were an important first step, I'm also here with 3 more requests. 1, we need to secure the windows that are in the perimeter and not protected by the gates. 2, replace the rest of the old perimeter fencing that's in decay. And 3, all gates must be locked from when school starts until the last kid is picked up from the YMCA after school program, which is 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays, if there is Saturday school. My child goes to YMCA after school. Yesterday when I picked her up, around 5 o'clock, the gate's wide open, and there's people sharing the field that the center is located in, among with our kids, people not affiliated with the school. I know there's got to be a ton of logistics with something like this, but if my gym can do it, and my dentist office can do it, and the doctors can figure out how to page people in, we should be able to do it too. And for those in the community who are pushing back on some of the security measures because they want the grounds open to the public, I get that this is a big change for the community, but whether we like it or not, times have changed. Guns are the leading cause of death for children in the US. Over 350,000 children have experienced gun violence at schools since Columbine. Every day, us parents drop off our kids and wonder if today is the day. Every damn day, we wonder, are we gonna pick them up? So times demand change. If you're pushing back on more security, I ask why you are asking these kids to sacrifice their safety for you. We are the adults. We are responsible for protecting them. We sacrifice, we make the hard decisions and the unpopular decisions that keep them safe. And we need to work as a community, not just the district, all of us, to prioritize the future of every student. Thank you.
After Deborah, Sherry Egbert and Elizabeth
And Jerry,
Rexius.
I have 3 minutes, and then if you can just take a quick stop, and then I'll give you the 2 minutes. I don't have a 5-minute timer on here. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Superintendent and School Board and other wonderful employees. As a follow-up to the email that I sent you yesterday, I'm here to give some public comments regarding 14D, which is the FCMAT contract. I'm not a parent at Loma Vista. As you know, I ran for school board in 2018 on a platform of equity and efficiency now. And I'm here today to talk about breaking down the stereotypes and myths about disabled students and using actual data to confront the discriminatory practices and the mindset, just like the Nazis. And I just went to and I'm Jewish, I just went to the exhibit, which I highly recommend to all of you at the Reagan Library, not so far away. It's outstanding, but the Nazis, the first people they got rid of was disabled people, especially disabled youth, because they looked at them as wasteful eaters. That's literally how the Germans translated them. And I feel like reviewing this contract and the fact that this district is only looking to address an outside entity for $42,000 assessing its disability-related programs for special ed is unfair, and that you should be looking at all of your programs, not just at disabled students. Because let's face it, disabled students are not being served. For instance, some of the key provisions in this contract, and keeping in mind the school district's motto of "for the future of every student" also applies to students in special ed. Whether or not the district over-identifies students, the district does not. According to a school board member I spoke with, the district's identification rate is approximately 10%. The state average before the pandemic was 12.5%. The median was 14.8. 5 is a significant statistical number. We are at 4.8-ish. There is no over-identification. As you know, I also do pro bono advocacy work for families. I know that there are violations of child find happening every day in this district, and that students go all the way through without ever being identified. You're also apparently using game theory to determine whether or not you can have a bleed rate of higher or lower litigation if you start taking away paraeducators and busing from students, because on here is a review of transportation, except for apparently no one really knows how many disabled students are on the bus or what that costs. They're also looking at number 9 on whether or not the transfers of unrestricted general funds are apparently excessive. Well, you guys, these students require a lot of services. That's why they're in special ed. And just because they're in special ed doesn't mean that they're not entitled to an equitable education. For our upcoming LCAP meeting tomorrow night, we received data from the surveys that were just done from parents, students, and the community. One of the very significant findings of that was that 70% of students, parents, and staff reported that bullying is a significant issue on their campus. And then we know that the district, because of the budget shortfalls, is cutting mental health services. And in also looking at the bigger picture of this contract and over-identification, suspected over-identification, I want to posit that a lot of these students that are struggling because they have not been identified and their needs are not being met on the school campuses. We need to be having more resources put into supporting students, supporting every student, making them feel safe and heard. And it's not about fences or not having a fence. It's about having someone at school that a student feels connected to, that they feel cares about them. And if you look at the data from the LCAP, there's almost half the students don't feel that anyone is there for them. That's what we need to be working on. We need to be making sure that every student feels safe and welcome and able to reach their maximum potential. We want to raise a community of people that are able to work. So going back to the data for special ed, just real quick, with regard to career and college preparation, this is from 2019. Only 4 students in special ed passed the Smarter Balance. 1 took a college class. 0 were in AP. 7 completed their A to G, and 0 got their biliteracy seal. We need to do better. Thank you very much.
Next was Cherie, followed by Elizabeth, and then next would be Jennifer, it looks like Ewing.
I have 5 minutes because I'm speaking on 2 items. The item for special ed, and then just an unagendized item. Should I start? Okay, I texted the school board and asked, and I asked specifically if it was agendized and unagendized, and they told me 5 minutes. So anyway, I wanted to share, so what do you, all right. So what are we going to do? Okay. All right. Well, my speech is on violence prevention and inefficiencies to address in the system, and it's also on bullying. And I just want to say I don't believe we're over-identifying, we're under-identifying. So I have a compelling story, and I'm going to start with my child's 5th grade poem when he was mayor at the moment of Loma Vista School, which the theme was bully prevention, which is a huge component of school safety. Here's an excerpt. I can't figure out what I've done. Put me down, you think it's fun. At school, alone on the ground, I'm the new kid. Never found. I tried to keep up my strength, but too many insults. I tried telling an adult. It didn't work, it just hurts. I can't take it anymore. It hurt my skin down to the core. Turn away and slam the door. This feels like I'm in a war. So being the shortest kid in school and not knowing how to socially connect, he was bullied. And like as Deborah said, the comprehensive safety plan, it is a huge issue, and it's a huge issue of school safety. This isn't safe. My son, he had some behavior things that were awkward, and I didn't know it was a disability. I just knew that he was kind of obnoxious and disengaged, well, in some classes, if they were not structured enough. But anyway, in the long run, his inability to connect with others, and he wrote in a reflection, he wrote in a story, one of my first challenges I faced this year was difficulty making friends. I've not learned to relate to my peers, and my sense of humor doesn't align. As a result, I don't have many friends, and this has taken a toll on my confidence and happiness and undermined my sense of purpose. I felt invisible and reverted to misbehavior to get people's attention. So I've been through it, you guys. And so what happened to my son when he got older, he got suspended. And because he was trying to get attention, and he had a behavior, he was impulsive, and he got suspended, which was traumatic for my family. So now you know why I always advocate for restorative justice, because I saw the negative effects that it has on a child and their love of learning, which also makes people less safe. Another component of safety is self-harm. So I would like to advocate for the Sandy Hook program, and also finding children with disabilities
30
because
seconds.
they have more issues and problems. We need things that create social connection, programs that teach children to relate to one another. My son doesn't want to go to college now, even though he's gifted in math. He was traumatized by the way it was handled, and it was not in a restorative justice way. That's also a very important component of school safety when you look at the CDE. Children with disabilities actually are suspended at 4 times the rate. And please have a safe, supportive school. Thank you.
So this will be Elizabeth, Jennifer, and then Joseph, looks like Corcoran.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Rexius, and my 2 children attend Loma Vista Elementary School. And I'm here just to show my support in advocating for our safety of our students, and in that I think it's important for the gates to be locked during all school hours and after school hours when there are still children present on campus. That's pretty much the gist. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Ewing. I'm also a parent of a Loma student, a 1st grader, and I'm in support of the gates for, all school hours. Anytime the kids are in school, YMCA, after school. I understand wanting to have access to the grounds. The community wants to be able to use the park like they have for years. But my son goes to the YMCA, and I think it's really terrifying that people can come on campus at any point at that time, even large dogs. And there's nobody to protect them from even that. So there needs to be some sort of, I feel like there's got to be an easy solution here. Someone can lock the gates and open them back up when the children are off of the campus. So I'm in support of the gates being locked at all times when our kids are there. It's the one only simple thing that we can do, the first of many that needs to happen. And then I'm speaking on behalf of a couple who couldn't be here tonight. I hope that's okay. They wrote this today. As parents of 2 children at Loma Vista Elementary School, we would like to vocalize our support of the gated school entrance. It gives us comfort to know there is an added measure of screening for any and all outside guests to gain entrance to the school grounds. This safety and security blanket is but a small reassurance that Loma Vista Elementary School is committed to protecting our children to the best of their ability. Brad and Celeste, thank you.
After Joseph will be Gina Galileo and then Jose Arias.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Corcoran. I'm also a parent of a Loma Vista student. It's a first grader who I share with Jennifer, and she just did a very great job. I am also here to advocate. I first want to say thanks to all of you and to Dr. Weiss for the quick action in getting the fence and the gate up after the Uvalde tragedy. I was really pleased to come back in August and to see it come as far as it had come. And so I think it's been a wonderful step. I would love to see more improvements to the school campus. The perimeter fencing is very flimsy by comparison to the new fence and gate. And so it would be my hope that this is the first step in improving the safety of all of our schools. And I'm very glad that we've taken the steps that we have. I would also like to advocate for having the gates locked anytime there are children at school and at the after-school program. Our family, we live in the neighborhood. We do use the campus on weekends to play wiffle ball. So my first point is I feel like there's a very easy solution for having the gates open to the community when children are not present. However, if for some reason that was not the case, as someone who is also a community member, I feel like it's a small price to pay to take away that parkland for the safety of the children at that school. So if I had to choose, I would choose the children above my own desire to use the school as a park. I want to echo the distinguished trustee's words from earlier where you said to keep our focus on the kids. And that's what we need to do with these security measures given the reality of the world that we live in. So thank you for your efforts thus far, and I look forward to some continued great work in this regard. We're all counting on you. Have a good night.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Gina. You know that already. So I am a parent of 3 children at Loma Vista, 1 in kinder, 1 in second, and 1 in third. I have taught in East LA, Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, 2 very opposing different schools. Just a lot going on there. I was on campus at Fountain Valley 1 year. Where during the year when there was a lockdown because there was a fear about campuses, there was a rumor out there. That school, it's interesting because they did have gates, but you didn't notice them, and they weren't locked all the time. And why I emphasize locked all the time is the fact that a gate can be closed and it can already make that statement of, we don't want anyone in. We have cameras set up at Loma Vista. My daughter keeps saying, they have cameras. Why do they have to lock the doors too? Can't they see the people? Can't they know in advance? My children are saying, I feel like a rat in a cage. I feel like a hamster. I'm scared. Now when they're walking through the corridor in front of the kindergarten classroom, it's darker. So on the comments that a previous parent made, or individual here about the way that the fencing was built and how close the bars are together, that is something to take into account because the look does influence our kids. You can see it. To go back to that Fountain Valley experience, that campus was amazing. Fountain Valley High School, it's about 4,000 kids. All of the faculty is on board. I've never seen a school like that before. And what was amazing was the counselors, people being involved, knowing which students that they need to be visiting constantly, the IEP meetings. Everything was on on board, everybody. And it wasn't just about the paperwork. It wasn't just about the groundwork. We need to connect to our students, that everyone knows everyone on a first name basis. The problem that's happening with our fence there is I cannot just go and say, hey, how's my kid doing in school? Because the gate gets closed and locked right away and immediately. I understand that people are feeling a little bit concerned about what's going to happen after campus hours with different strangers being permitted.
30
because of the
seconds.
park. But the thing is that does that mean that our parks, when there is an adult present, do our parks need fences too? Because that's kind of confusing there. What's the difference and where's the line there? I just want to re-emphasize about a school that's having a fence. I was there, and you can feel still welcome on campus based on the way the fence looks. And you can lock it down when there's an urgent problem. But I don't think it needs to be locked all the time.
Gina Galileo. Next is Jose Arias, followed by Ashley Pope, and then we just wanted a clarification. Marianne, we had a clarification for Cherie. Cherie would like to invite you back up for the 2 minutes, if you would still like to come up. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jose Arias. I'm a member of the Carpenters Local Union 805. I'm also a resident of Ventura. I got a 4-year-old daughter that she's going to start attending Elmhurst in August. And I would like her to be having a good education and be attending a good schools with everything that she needs, because she's going to start a journey right now. Also, I like my brothers here say before, we work for Measure E, we support Measure E, and we would like you guys to put some words there so we can get a community workforce, so we can work local, so we can enjoy our families. We can spend the afternoons with her, with my little one here, like enjoy, instead of driving all the way to LA or driving all the way to Santa Barbara. I can be attending some of the events that she's gonna start doing, having. And you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
My name is Ashley Pope. My son has autism and is in a special day class. I am the board president of Autism Society Ventura County and the vice chair of their advocacy committee. I've been part of our district CDAC from its inception and attend SELPA and LCAP meetings. I understand VUSD is having to make difficult decisions about budgetary cuts. However, I am appalled that the special education department has been singled out in the proposed voluntary assessment for over expenditures. Students with disabilities are the most vulnerable in your care, and they have experienced disproportionate learning loss through the COVID pandemic. Our children are often left out of extracurricular activities and electives, with VUSD families expressing frustration that their kid is only offered art as an elective for all 3 years of middle school. Think about that. Students with disabilities have access to one elective, while their same-aged peers have access to an array of electives. Our Mod Severe and autism programs do not have access to a K-8 environment, even though it's school of choice for every other child in the district. Again, all other students have access to school of choice for a K-8 program. It has only been a few years since we reabsorbed the county's programs on VUSD campuses to bring our students back. Did we bring these programs back into our district to then hire a watchdog agency to come and tell us how we are overspending on them? Special education families are all too familiar with the inequities in the K-8 system. We are patient, kind, and empathetic. When things fall through the cracks, we have grace. We have not kept score for all the moments when VUSD falls short. Why is VUSD looking to conduct an expense assessment of one of the most marginalized student populations that was recently documented to have low test scores and who are underprepared for life after K-12? While I have heard that this is an attempt at trimming costs and not at the expense of our students, it appears that this is an attempt to identify the areas where VUSD is currently offering beyond the legally required supports and services to cut them. I can tell you there will be few areas that you will find VUSD is over-serving and over-identifying students with disabilities. A true assessment would uncover many areas where VUSD is under-serving and under-identifying students with disabilities. In a post-Perez versus Sturgis world, this is a costly predicament. A few additional things. Looking at the last 3 years of expenses through the COVID shutdowns tells us little about the future. The 7-Eleven committee deemed several properties surplus years ago. Why have we not sold a single property? Enrollment is declining and providing staffing is harder than ever. Why haven't we looked at condensing or closing a school campus? In this contract, there is no mention of the selected agency making contact with parents, including your very own CDAC committee. I want to make it clear that we do appreciate the positive change under current special education leadership. We, the parents, can tell you exactly where your liabilities are. I've mentioned several of them today. I'm not opposed to the assessment itself. I am opposed to special education being singled out. This population of students is not lesser than, and its tools and resources are not less important than those of their peers. I urge you to say no. We will not accept this proposal to assess only special education.
Okay, part two. All right, so I'm starting with the Child Find Act because my son was under-identified, and I'm going to connect it to violence because violence is also self-harm, and a lot of times violence starts with social isolation, which leads to depression, which leads to anxiety, which leads to misbehavior, which could lead to self-harm or violence. I'd like to put our resources into the root of addressing the problem. So again, is it worth spending money on a 6-foot-high fence versus a 10-foot-high fence, or should we be putting resources into more playgrounds that form more connection, and that gardens that are calming, better counseling offices, technology, anything that helps children build a sense of belonging will help their grades. Nurturing environments are also a component of school safety according to the CDE and West Ed. So I'd like to support that. You know, going back, you know, my son had a supportive family, so he ended up being fine. But I really fear for parents that don't, or I mean children that don't have a structure in their life, and they're alone, and they're really alone. It's really harmful. I am going to just make one little comment that I feel that having green space and places for people to connect is really important to foster community, and I believe that is also a component of safety that makes us more safe. We need to make friends, we need to connect, we need to know each other, we need to love each other. And that is how we find peace. Heal the heart, heal the world.
Cherie Dantig. And then Mr. Nelson, if you did want to come up, you would be, no, okay.
Hello. I'm speaking to you today as the mother of a kindergarten student and a 3rd grader who both attend Loma Vista Elementary School. First, I would like to thank the district for completing the installation of the fence over spring break. I know some members of the community find this fence controversial. In reality, the fence is the bare minimum of the safety measures that the district could take to help protect our kids and teachers. It is a travesty that there have been more mass shootings in 2023 than there have been days of the year. It is a travesty that it took nearly a year to install the gates and fence at our school. It is a travesty that the delay was caused by certain members of the community who cared more about keeping the school as a neighborhood park than they did about the safety and security of the students and teachers that attend the school. It is a travesty that parents like me have to spend It is a travesty that parents like me have spent the last 9 months of the school year hugging their kids extra tight at drop-off and praying that they come home to us at the end of the day. The kindergarten classroom at Loma Vista is right off the street. Before the fence was completed, anyone and anything could access the youngest students and their teachers. No one was there to monitor the security of that classroom or any of the others. the fence is the bare minimum. It gives our kids and teachers an extra few seconds to prepare in the event the worst case scenario happens, like what happened in Uvalde or more recently in Nashville. This is not the world we want, but it is the world we live in. It is naive to think things like this could not happen in our community. We need the district to also update the school windows, perimeter fencing, and to take additional security measures to protect the most vulnerable members of our community. Additionally, we need the gates to remain locked at all times kids and staff are on campus, including after-school activities, the aftercare program, and Saturday school. Loma Vista is first and foremost a school. It is not a park. Thank you for your time.
Vice President Dannenberg, that completes the public comment.
Thank you all for sharing your comments. We appreciate it. This would be a good time, I think, to take that break that you had requested. So we'll take a quick break.
How many minutes? 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, and sorry to interrupt all the great conversation, but we have a lot of business yet to conduct, and so now we'll start on our action agenda item. The first item on the action agenda is the approval of the Board Oversight Committee for members' first reading. And what we did, as you may recall, is we assigned a subcommittee, being President Rodriguez and myself, to review the applications. There are several categories that we looked at, whether they were parents, seniors, taxpayer association. We wanted to have representation from at least each of the trustee areas, and we looked at all the applications and tried to come up with a mix of a variety of people to make sure we're getting everybody in the community covered. To that end, what we did is we, and I'll pass it out now for your review, and in a minute Dr. Castro will read it. This is the list of our recommendations at the top, and we actually decided that we wanted to go ahead and create a list of alternatives, if you will agree with that, because we figured that if somebody were to drop out, we'd have an alternative already. So you can see that we were able to get a couple of members at least from each board member attendance area, and the numbers behind those names. We did have a few applications that we really didn't consider. I think there were 3 of them, 3 or 4, that were late, and we felt it wasn't fair to the people that had them in on time. So before Dr. Castro reads the name, I will ask if you have any questions about the process.
And what I'll do, Vice President, is to give Mr. Mirza a chance to read some details from the item that could be important for the questions you might have about the selection criteria. So, Mr. Mirza, if you could just walk us through the selection criteria.
Yes, so at the January 10th, 2023 board meeting, the resolution number 2302 to establish the Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee was approved. The amended bylaws were approved by the board at the February 28th, 2023 meeting. Per those bylaws, the committee shall consist of at least 7 and up to 11 members appointed by the board upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board bond subcommittee. Candidates submitted written applications that will be selected based upon criteria established by Prop 39. 1 member shall be a parent or guardian of a child enrolled in VUSD. 1 member shall be the parent or guardian of a child enrolled in Ventura Unified School District and have active in parent-teacher organization. 1 member shall be active in business organization representing the business community located in the district. 1 member shall be active in a senior citizens organization. 1 member shall be active in a bona fide taxpayers association, and 2 members shall be from the community at large. Additionally, an attempt was made to include at least 1 member from each trustee district.
Thank you, Mr. Mirza. And what I can attest to is that the subcommittee, the recommendation of the subcommittee accounts for all of the required components per our bylaws.
Any questions before we read the list?
Yeah. Maybe you should just read the list, but my question is, how did you determine brain fart? How did you determine if there's a conflict of interest, and what does that look like? Was there anybody that fell under that?
I don't believe we went on the strength of the application and paperwork they had submitted, and if they were known in the community.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And Mr. Forsyth, after the board completes its discussion, I'll ask Mr. Mirza to talk about some of the next steps that would more thoroughly address that question. But Dr. Dannenberg, for the process, is absolutely correct. On the face of it, there was no one on the criteria, based on the information that was provided, was it able to determine whether or not there was any conflict of interest per se.
I have no questions as long as the members of the committee meet all the bylaws. I'm fine with it.
I just have a couple questions about the process. And so I personally know 2 individuals that are on our large board agenda who have applied. And I know that we have timestamps next to when we receive them. But if you can just share with me, for those, first off, how many total submitted applications to be considered? How many were late? And what is the communication process for those, who are late, and or those after we kind of see this list? What will be the communication process to them? And has there been a communication process to date?
I know that Amy
you.
Dahm is looking up some information, so I'll answer that last question first.
No worries.
To date, we have not communicated anything to the applicants related to where they stand in the process. This is the first public opportunity for anyone to hear about the application process. So, like the board, the agenda item includes a redacted version of all the applications that met the timeline criteria. So we're able to see, you and the public are able to see all individuals who applied. So this is, again, the first time in a public manner to be able to state the subcommittee's recommendations for the committee. And Ms. Dahm, are you ready for that other information?
I am. I can confirm that there was 32 applications that were submitted on time, and we had 3 late applications.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, go ahead. So, and then on this list that we haven't read, we have 11, and then 16 total. So for the remaining 16 of the ones that are on time, and then I would also like to include the 3 that were late, what's the process to be informing them about next steps and communication, and when?
Assuming that the board elects to take action this evening, and assuming that after this item 14A, that we move through board approval through item 14B, and the board acts to take a resolution forward, then we would communicate the board's decision for both groups, those who are determined to have that initial role, and then potentially, which I'll talk about in a moment, the alternates. And then we would also communicate with those individuals who were not selected. There won't be any additional reason or rationale other than the fact that they were not selected.
Question. You know, I do appreciate you putting the alternates, because it's really hard to staff committees. That, you know, people tend to drop off, and that's you know, it is what it is. But you know, what is the process? So, I've been on some committees here, Ventura Unified, and currently am on some of those. What is it? Attendance factor? Is it like, hey, 3 attendances? Is that decided by the committee? I mean, how is these individuals going to be replenished, I guess you'd say?
That is a very important question. So let me first talk about the 11. The 11 that will be that Dr. Dannenberg, on behalf of the subcommittee, will recommend are the required members of the committee. Should the required members of the committee, when we go through the next step, which we'll talk about in a moment, for whatever reason, they could even still elect to opt out at this point, right? So we'll identify them. We will, assuming the board takes action, notify that they've been selected. If for some reason they drop out, that's why the alternates are important. That said, we also still need to be in compliance with our bylaws. So, Trustee Forsyth, in terms of what happens if somebody doesn't meet the criteria, or they opt out, or they stop attending, all of those things would be addressed via the application of the bylaws, and that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted the public to know that there is a process, and it's outlined in the bylaws.
And basically, we did try to select one alternate from each attendance area, too. It isn't on this sheet, but we did pick one from each of our attendance areas.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I'd like to move to approve.
Are you going to read the list?
Are you moving to approve the agenda item, or is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to Well, go ahead, and let's get a second on that since we have a motion. A second on it? We need a second. Calvin's motion to approve the
agenda item.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could wait. I mean, it is a first read, or we could approve it tonight. And Calvin's made the motion, so if we have a second, we can move forward tonight.
And let me go ahead and interject because there's a pause here. Yeah. It seems fine now. One suggestion to move forward for action on 14A would be to reach agreement on the 11 recommendations of the committee members, and then to move into the alternates, and then we can vote. So we would approve these alternates. Right, so we could do the required committee members, the alternates. The subcommittee is asking for approval of the alternates, going back to Trustee Forsyth's questions about what happens. What happens if, for whatever reason, someone doesn't show, they're not responsive, or they actually back out. It is important then to have the alternates. If not, then perhaps the selection committee process slows down a little bit. So that's why the alternates are important. So if what I think would be important after we hear the motion and before we vote then would be to read the list of names who are being recommended for the committees.
You guys are hearing that first.
So,
okay, hold on. Turn your mic off. So I'll withdraw the motion until we hear the names of the first 11.
Okay, so the subcommittee is recommending, and on your list you have them broken down by trustee area. From Area 1, Andrew Morgan, Ashley Pope. From Area 2, Kim Prilhart, Dave Armstrong. From Area 3, Christina Alvarez, Madrigal Hendrich. Area 4, Albert Antelman, Andraza Mervich. Area 5, Laura Reyes, Marina Porter. And then the bylaws allow for, once those criteria and the criteria that Mr. Mirza went through, to list others, and the 11th would be Ryan Grau. So those are the initial committee member recommendations. The alternates, by the order of the region 1 through 5, would be Marco Cuevas, Rebecca Acker, Rachel Dreer, Brad Golden, and Jenna White.
Can I have a question about the alternates? Is the idea that if one of the area committee members, for whatever reason, cannot serve on the actual committee, that the alternate from that corresponding area is what fills? It's not in order of how it's listed right now.
That is correct. Okay, so do we want to take action on this tonight, or do we want to bring it back for a second read?
I have one more question. My next question is was there some discussion or thought about having a second alternate to the area? Let's say 2 people, for whatever reason, cannot.
No, not to start with. We still have the list of names we can go back to if we should have to need that, but we don't need it. We didn't feel the need to do that this time. Okay.
I move to approve the first 11.
I second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsyth?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
And thank you for that. The board also has the option of approving the alternates if you would choose to take action on that tonight.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the alternates.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
I would like to not recuse myself, but abstain because of information. I just have some additional questions that I would like about those alternates and the process, which maybe I can ask at this time, or do we have to go back through a roll call?
Well, you're abstaining, so let's finish the vote, and then we can talk about what we would do from there.
Thank you, Trustee Dannenberg.
Yes.
So the motion would carry with 3 yes and 1 abstention.
So then procedurally, the item itself, the entire item would pass 3 votes, yes, 1 abstention, but you can still ask questions, so.
So for the 3 that were late, can we in a Friday letter receive the names of those applicants?
I think the answer is yes. I know we have counsel here present, but I don't think we need to bring him forward for this one. We'll just confer with counsel, but absolutely, I think that's a possibility.
Moving on to item 14B, consideration of resolution 2315, appointment of Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee members and alternates. Mr. Marza.
Okay, so I'm going to read the resolution. So before the governing board of the Ventura Unified School District, County of Ventura, State of California, resolution number 23-15, appointment of Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee members and alternates. Whereas the Ventura Unified School District submitted to the voters of the district pursuant to Article 13A, Section 1B of the California Constitution and Chapter 1.5 of Part 10 of Title I, commencing with Section 15264 of California Education Code, its general obligation bond proposal in the amount of $434,500,000 for the election that was held on November 8, 2022. And whereas the voters of the district approved by at least 55% vote said bond proposal as Measure E on the election ballot, and whereas Education Code Section 15278 provides that if a bond measure such as Measure E is approved by the voters, then the district must establish and appoint members to an independent citizens oversight committee as an additional accountability measure for the voters and taxpayers of the district. And whereas Education Code Section 15282 provides that the oversight committee shall consist of at least 7 members to serve the terms of 2 years without compensation and for no more than 3 consecutive terms. The Oversight Committee shall be comprised of at least 1 member who is active in a business organization representing the business community located within the district, 1 member who is active in a senior citizens organization, and 1 member who is active in a bona fide taxpayer organization, 1 member who is parent or guardian of a child enrolled in the district, and 1 member who is both a parent or guardian of a child enrolled in the district and active in a parent-teacher organization such as a PTA or school site council. No employee or official of the district shall be appointed, and no vendor, contractor, or consultant of the district shall be appointed to the Oversight Committee. And whereas by this resolution, the board wishes to appoint 11 persons to the Board Oversight Committee to 2-year terms, the board also wishes to appoint 5 alternate committee members in the event any of the 11 are unable to serve. Now, therefore, the governing board of the Ventura Unified School District hereby resolves, determines, and orders as follows. Section 1, The foregoing recitals are true and correct. Section 2, the board hereby appoints the following members, each to a 2-year term commencing upon the approval of this resolution, unless otherwise set forth in the Ventura Unified School District Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Measure E bylaws.
And Mr. Mears, if you can list the members.
Yes, here are the recommended Bond Oversight Committee members: Andrew Morgan, Ashley Pope, Kim Perlhart, Dave Armstrong, Christina Alvarez, Madrigal Hendrich, Albert Entelman, Draza Rivichin, Laura Reyes, Marina Porter, Ryan Grau. And here are the recommended alternates: Marco Cuevas, Rebecca Acker, Rachel Dreyer, Brad Golden, Jenna White.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
Do you have any questions? Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Danenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Next is a proposal for about Measure E program and facilities improvement consulting services by and between the Ventura Unified School District and Balfour Beatty. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading tonight. Mr. Mercer, would you like to address this, please?
Yes. Board members, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement with Balfour Beatty for bond program and facilities implementation and consulting services. Balfour Beatty has provided services for over 115 school districts and has maintained ongoing working relationships with local Ventura County school districts for over 20 years. As bond program and facilities improvement consultant, Balfour Beatty will assist with program master planning based upon collaboration and transparent communication, project selection, strategies, planning, scheduling, and budgets, conceptual and design development collaboration, design constructability and value enhancement studies, document control systems, agency approvals, and bid phase. Also, this will be no impact to the general fund, as this would be funded through the bond, and the estimated cost is $50,000. And I just kind of wanted to touch base on the process that we endeavored to select the firm. So Terry Allison, our facilities director, and I have engaged in the process of selecting outside agencies. The contract would fall under non-competitive bidding, as we're working with a unique, specialized, and specific expertise. So the evaluation criteria were as follows: firm qualification. A thorough review of the firm's qualifications was conducted and included analyzing the firm's reputation and network reach, analyzing the firm's management, institutional memory, and doing reference checks. The next step was to analyze the individual's qualifications, which means gauging their breadth of knowledge and experience in similar financing, jurisdictions, and distribution of prior work while doing additional reference checks. The next step was looking at the firm's understanding and approach to the needs, circumstances, and the goals of the district, the degree of creativity needed, and outlining the work plan, which includes assessing the tasks, completion dates, and responses and recommendations to specific questions about the district's priorities. And the final criteria that we used to analyze in selecting the firm was the proposed fee arrangements and how they are compared with the local competition. And so we do have representatives from Balfour Beatty here today, Mr. Dennis and Mr. Henderson. If you guys have any questions, comments. And so we are seeking approval for this contract tonight.
Yeah, my question was, how many firms with this unique expertise did we look at?
Looked at 5.
It's not so much of a question, just a comment. I've asked around about this firm, and it sounds like there's a very good reputation. So I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Ms. Callahan, any questions?
I don't. I appreciate you sharing the thorough background and information. I think that's important, especially whenever we have any new contracts, but specifically one that is dealing with some of our purchases with the bond. That's an expectation that I think we all have and would definitely want to see moving forward. So thank you for that. So it sounds like this particular contract is $50,000 and the scope of services is outlined in the 18-page contract that you've shared. But anything else moving forward, since this did not go through an RFP process, we will have any additional funding, especially if it's over $25,000, will continue to come forward to us?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second?
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Item 14D, consideration of agreement for consulting services between the Fiscal Crisis Management Assessment Team, FCMAT, and the Ventura Unified School District. Mr. Mirza, this is yours, or Dr. Castro, do you want to speak to it first?
Yes, yeah. Dr. Dannenberg, thank you for the opportunity. Before Mr. Mirza gets started on the details of the contract, I just want to be responsive to some of the feedback that we've received from the community this evening via public comment, and also some of the messages that we received via email. I think it's really critical that our community understand that students with disabilities, their families, and the process of being identified as a student with exceptional needs is in itself a very unique process. We're very fortunate on our staff to have individuals committed to improving these processes. We've been very fortunate this year through the strength of our leadership team, through the strength of our classified and certificated employees, to really put a lot of time and attention into improving many areas of serving our students with disabilities. In addition to the engagement of our CDAC, we've been working in expanding inclusive practices. You've heard several of these areas of improvements over a couple of board meetings. Those areas have been shared with our CDAC and with our PAC. So the intent of tonight's agenda item is really not to go back through that, but I do want to make sure that we demonstrate our intention. One of the comments in particular was stating in some way that we need to rectify the budget deficit on the backs of our students with disabilities. Our opening communication, I hope, is evidence that that is not the case. So this contract came forward today. We months ago had a $21 million deficit projected. We've reduced that to $14 million. And another piece of this contract is important to note that we don't know what these experts are going to say, but we are going to be open to that. Special education and general education they dovetail against one another. It is not that there are certain responsibilities that only special education students, their families, and the educators take on. There is a general education, as we say, this side of the house, and there are a lot of other areas that lead to a student needing and being identified as a student with disabilities. So this contract, Mr. Mirza will get into the details. He's going to talk about the scope of work, but I just wanted to talk about for a moment the spirit that we're bringing this forward in. So Mr. Mirza, if you would.
Yes, so we're looking to seek approval from the board tonight. The total cost of this contract is $42,600. It will be out of the general fund. And so looking at their scope of work, and as we come forward to, as Dr. Castro read the second interim letter review, that we did reduce our expenditures from 21 million now down to 14 million. We're looking at all areas of the district and not just pinpointing specific aspects. So our job here is to do the right due diligence and to continue to look at all areas of the budget. Specifically for FCMAT, Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, they're going to come and look at they're going to assign professionals to study specific aspects of the district's operation. The scope of work that it's included in this study is analyze special education teacher staffing ratios, class and caseload size using statutory requirements for mandated services and statewide guidelines, and make recommendations for improvement, if any. Review the efficiency of staffing staffing allocations of special education paraeducators per ed code requirements and/or industry standards and make recommendations for improvement, if any. Review the procedures for identifying the need for paraeducators, including least restrictive environment, and the processes for monitoring the assignment of paraeducators and determining the need for continued support from year to year. Include classroom and one-to-one paraeducators. Number 3, analyze staffing and caseloads for related service providers, including but not limited to speech pathologists, psychologists, occupational, physical therapists, behavior specialists, adaptive physical education teachers, and other staff who may be related service providers, and make recommendations for improvement, if any. Analyze whether the district provides a continuum of special education and related services for students from preschool through age 22, including placements in the least restrictive environments, and make recommendations for improvements, if any.
Mr. Mirza, if you can just pause there. The first 3 items within the scope of work that Mr. Mirza covered, yeah, thank you. Several of those are predicated and based in our existing contract language. So I want to, again, reiterate that this is a large process. It would be informing. The board would take the recommendations that staff brings forward through this process, but we can't, in just, again, the first 3, there are elements that we could not even implement uniformly if we wanted to. We would need to do that in partnership with VUEA and VESPA through contract negotiations. So, and then the 4th bullet point, I want to just take a moment to call out that we would be receiving recommendations as it relates to including placements in the least restrictive environments, and they would make recommendations for an improvement. This is an area where we have absolutely been committed to improving an array of services and supports related to the least restrictive environments, and we would, again, welcome being compared to districts that perhaps have higher percentages of least restrictive environment numbers, and see how we compare and how they accomplish those things. We have a couple of initiatives, again, we're not going to be getting into that tonight, that are focused on lesser restrictive environments, but we welcome being held to a very high standard for those districts that may be doing something a little bit more uniquely. Thank you, Mr. Mirza. Can you continue with the scope of work?
I'm sorry, real quick. Can you define least restrictive environment for those who are not in SPED?
Sure. So least that was not the right response. Yes, absolutely. Trustee Forsythe, thank you. So the less restrictive environment concept means, by definition, the amount of time that students with disabilities spend in a general education environment. So but I do state that those are IEP team decisions made by knowledgeable individuals who understand that child's needs and the programs and services that could affect and support that child.
Okay, so continuing on for the scope of work, we got 5 more bullet points. Determine whether the district over-identifies students for special education services compared to the statewide and countywide averages, and make recommendations that will reduce over-identification if needed. Review the organizational structure and staffing of the special education department in the district central office to determine whether administration, clerical, administrative support, program specialists, teachers on special assignment, and overall function are aligned with those of districts of comparable size and structure, and make recommendations for greater efficiencies if needed. Review cost of due processes, mediation, settlements for the past 3 years, and make recommendations for improvements, if any. Review the district's professional development training program as it relates to special education, and make recommendations for improvements, if any. Review the district's unrestricted general fund contribution to SPED, or special education, and make recommendations for greater efficiency, if any. And the last, review special education transportation for efficiency and effectiveness, and provide recommendations for potential cost-saving measures, if any. The review will include but not be limited to the role of individual education program IEPs, routing, scheduling, operations, and staffing.
Thank you, Mr. Mirza. So just to summarize this portion, again, the board is aware that the We have been looking at central office staffing, going back to multiple years. We've made reductions in central office staffing. Our leadership team, including our cabinet, understands that that is also part of this process, so you'll see that there. There are other areas that are listed, including evaluating our training and professional development. We will be open to learning more about how we can further support our professionals in the field, and that's a part of that. And just as Mr. Mirza said, the focus on the general fund contribution, all districts make a general fund contribution to the cost of special education. It just comes down to the amount and based on the needs. And each of these needs are unique, which again is why we invite having an outside entity with experts be able to do a compare and contrast between how our district is structured and how others may be structured to talk about efficiencies. And that goes to number 9 on the bullet point, which is about efficiencies and effectiveness of overall programs. And number 9, focusing on transportation specifically.
Questions by the board?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you explaining it a little bit more in detail. You know, as many of you know, I'm a special education teacher. I teach out at Oxnard. Dr. Castro was a special education teacher and also worked at VCOE in the special ed department as an assistant. So there's a lot of love up here for special ed students and a lot of concern as well. So, you know, as being the resident SPED teacher, I get a lot of calls from parents who you know, who have students that are in SPED. So, you know, and I got a lot of calls about this as well. So, you know, I got a list of questions. Most of it you just answered, but and this really comes down to it's not just we're not focusing on SPED. Right, we're not. This is not part of just we're going to look at SPED and how to cut costs. This is more of as our directive that we gave about looking at all programs, right? And I know you went over that, but I just want to make that clear that this is not just a SPED-oriented. How can we, you know, cut costs there? And I understand that SPED is a huge, you know, it costs a lot to run SPED, but it's very needed. You know, there are our most at-risk students and our most needed students, and our money should go where the need is the greatest, and it generally is SPED. So I just want to, you know, emphasize that we need to make sure that we're communicating that. We need to be transparent in this process. You know, and there is that concern that kept coming up as over-identification as needed. We are under the average, right? As far as SPED students are concerned. Identification is the process through the SST, student study team, then goes to an IEP assessment. So I just can you explain that assessment process? Can you explain how, I mean, the likelihood of over-identification, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, Trustee Forsyth. I'm going to approach this broadly so we don't get too much into the actual special education, but I think talking about the unique characteristics of how declining enrollments can affect our district and what over or under identification can look like under our current situation. So as the district is going from a larger number of students totally to fewer number of students, let's assume that most of the students that we no longer have would have been general education students. Therefore, the number of students that remain and the needs of which we need to address, especially coming through this phase of COVID, could be greater, right? So a statistic that was thrown out earlier that in previous years we had hovered around maybe a 10% identification rate. That rate is higher now. It's probably hovering around 12% or a little bit higher. I'll need to get those exact statistics. But whether that's over or an under identification generally focuses more on the student population than the overall percentage. 10% is a target, but it is not like a goal, and we've used that language before. And that has to do mostly with the rate of students with disabilities within a general population needing support. So it's just an average number that is accepted for the general population of students with disabilities being identified. So we are higher than this hypothetical average, but now if we look at where districts are currently, what a new average would be post-COVID, that remains to be seen. That new average in California may be higher than it was prior to COVID. So it's really difficult to state where we stand now, but it isn't unreasonable to think that currently and maybe for the foreseeable couple of years, we may have a higher identification rate than we had in years past. But again, there are two factors that that really impact that. One, overall declining enrollment and the students that remain and the needs that they have. And second, that population going through this phase of the recovery. So those are probably 2 or 3 factors that influence where we are now.
Okay, thank you so much. A couple more questions. Services, I know that there was a worry that we're looking to trim the services. You know, we're not looking at Johnny's 120 speech hours and trying to cut that down to 100 just to save money, costs on a para or a SPL. So are we looking at services in general? I mean, what, as far as this is concerned, can you explain that a little bit more?
I think when we say looking at, the answer would be yes, because we are making observations, making comparison, gathering data, so we're looking at it. The question about are we looking to cut those services, that is an IEP team decision. And so if the IEP team decides that that student needs services, and then on aggregate as a district, it costs X amount of dollars to provide those services, districts, Ventura Unified and others, are required to provide that service regardless of what the cost is. So we, if IEP teams decide that, that an individual student no longer needs a service for whatever reason, and on aggregate, more IEP teams are making those decisions, as I said, as we wax and wane through the current needs, then we pay more or we pay less. But regardless of the amount, we are required to pay for that cost. Mr. Mirza.
So the FICMAT team will initially conduct an orientation at the district with district management and supervisory personnel on the team's procedures and propose a schedule of the study, right? And then they'll do an on-site review, and they'll do exit meetings, exit letter, then they'll do a draft report, and then the preliminary draft report for administration, district administrator to review. Then they'll bring it back to the board for a final report with recommendations.
Would that be an open meeting when we're discussing that?
Yes.
Okay, because I think that's pretty important to have that, the community to be part of this discussion and also see it as we see it.
So mine is not a question, but more of a comment, because I've also had community members speak to me about this. And the way that I explained it to them is that this is important to us. So we've already cut things in a budget that we've just decided in different meetings, but this, we wanted experts to come in because we feel that it's so important. So I understand that people are nervous because you have language in here that says that we could be cutting, but we also could be adding. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we're using experts because we think it's so important, not because we want to cut it, because we want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Thank you, and thank you for all the information and background. I'm just curious, and I know it's probably in there, but can you just share for the public's edification, how much is this particular contract?
$42,600.
$42,600, and the terms?
It's just a one-time study.
Annual.
Yeah, annual.
The question I have is sort of a reverse question. A couple of times tonight we've heard from a couple of our speakers about missing children and child find. Is there a potential in this that FICMAT would tell us we're missing services we should be providing?
The straight answer is yes, because they're doing a comprehensive review of our protocols and processes. And so, yes, Child Find is one element of our required services. And so that could be a finding, absolutely.
Any more questions before we call for a motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion. No. Well, we do have a...
Board can take action.
Or we could take action. Do you want to make it a first read, or do you want to take action? It's up to you.
I move to approve.
Foresight? You?
How crucial is this to get it done right away? I guess that's the question.
The study, if we get the contract approved, the earliest they could come in is the beginning of August. They would
Okay.
like to be here present when staff is available.
I think a second read would be fine.
Yeah, and if I could just add.
Well, I actually have a question for the board. If we go to a second read, what are we hoping to get out of the second read? Because they're gonna bring the recommendations to us. So the recommendations that they give is not going to be set in stone. But what would be the reason for delaying it? Is my question. If we're going to do the final approval.
Well, I guess hearing from the company itself, some maybe more community input, and also, yeah, I think just talking to the organization would be helpful. You know, I sure got some questions for them, if that's a possibility. If not,
I appreciate hearing that guidance. We don't know if we'd be able to have FCMAT available or present to talk about the service, but we can ask. I'll just use this opportunity also to share. Again, this is a first read. It's up to the board to determine when that goes forward. One thing to consider, and this is not just for FCMAT. I can't speak on behalf of FCMAT. I can only speak on behalf of the context that we're in. We know that finding committed excellent individuals is a real challenge for all organizations. You'll note that the team that they are trying to comprise is a multidisciplinary team. I don't know if 2 or 3 weeks would make a difference or a month would make a difference in delay, but I do know from other things that we've experienced that delays are affecting a lot of the way that we do business. So that's just something for you to consider. If you have an intent of ultimately to approve, we don't necessarily know if we can get FCMAT, but we will invite them to participate. If nothing else, we can also invite them to provide written comments. Either way, that I just wanted to share that in case that had any bearing on your decision.
So you posed a question, and so our whole board is not here, A. And number two, I think we have had a couple different public comments, and so anytime we have contracts, the reason for the process of a first read and a second read is to have time. And so, because if not, then we would not necessarily have, why then don't we just put it on as an action, or why is this process in place then in the first place? It seems like of late we definitely have been kind of bypassing the first read, but there is a reason and an intent for the first read and then a second. And one of the most important pieces is to have time to have things resonate. And then also we don't have our full board here. But another thing to kind of, as I'm sharing that piece, you made a motion, Jerry can easily second it, and then we can have a vote and move on. So I just wanted to share my component on why the first read and why waiting for the second.
Well, going into just sounding out is that I would understand for a second read if we were saying that, are we looking for another company to do it? Because a second read doesn't change the scope of work is the only thing that I'm saying. A delay is usually because we feel that maybe we need to look at another company. We have more questions because we might want to use another company. But in this action, we're saying that we want to see the scope of work. We want to get the recommendations sooner than later so that we have time to discuss it. Mm-hmm. Now, if we delay another few weeks, we delay another month, by the time we have time to take action, company might not even be available.
I feel that that argument can be made in a handful of things. We had this with the buses that we have, and we still don't have delivered. So, I mean, there's a handful of times where this has come up. And I don't think necessarily a second read is necessarily just because we have doubts. I think it is the process, and the process is to give the community time to permeate. We've had public comment and to be able to have input if and where needed.
Can I ask a question? This was ran by CDEC, our advisory committee, or
no,
was it discussed?
Because we were bringing this forward for public comment today.
So generally, this would be something.
Well, this is an action that the board would take to approve a contract. But what we would do,
gotcha.
What we would do subsequently then is in the process we could go forward. But again, I don't want to be overly promising things that will or won't happen. We will take the feedback from the board, whether those processes align with the May 9th meeting when this would come back for a second read. Those meetings are already determined. Mr. Mirza, you had something that you were going to state.
I just wanted to, Trustee Peterson was saying we did reach out to other companies. This was not the only company. So we reached out to Total School Solutions. They do offer similar service. We reached out to School Services of America and FICMAT. After analyzing through the process, similar to how we did the bond consultation, analyzing their qualifications, we've decided on FICMAT would be the best to serve the district. And we looked at different studies from different comparable groups. If you guys go on FICMAT's website, it's very transparent. They have studies that they've done with comparable schools available already.
So coming back, whether it's tonight or a second read, the FICMAT will be our recommendation. The scope of work will be identical. The cost will be what it is. But we will, again, take any feedback that you want, so that way we can, of course, be responsive, share anything that we learn through a Friday memo, but be definitely as prepared as we can the next time it comes forward, should you want to delay for any reason to next meeting.
For the purpose of Mr. Peterson's motion, I will second it. If we have a 2-2 vote, then it'll have to come back because we don't have the quorum passing it. So we now have a motion and a second. So can we get a vote, please?
Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
No.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Callahan. Trustee Callahan?
My vote is no as well.
Okay, so the motion fails, a 2-2 vote.
So that means it will come back for a second read at the next meeting. So, okay, moving on to 14E, a consideration of supplemental novels and supplemental novel adoption committee, first reading. Dr. Bayless.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dannenberg. Trustees, it's my pleasure to bring forward for your consideration 7 fast-track books for a recommendation for adoption, first read. These are eligible for what we call fast track. We have 2 processes for novels coming out of our supplemental novel adoption committee. One is fast track, whereby novels that already are approved by the CDE can be brought before you without full extensive discussion and read by the committee, as opposed to non-fast track books that are not on the CDE list. So these are all fast track books, and these come to us, they come to the committee by teacher request, and they are on display upstairs in the Ed Services room by in the lobby by the red couches. I'll just read the titles and authors quickly for you and for the benefit of the public. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. Enrique's Journey, the Young Adult Adaptation, The True Story of a Boy Determined to Reunite with His Mother by Sonia Nazario. And that same book, the regular book, not the Young Adult Adaptation, by Sonia Nazario. Shiloh by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor. The Serengeti Rules, The Quest to Discover How Life Works and Why It Matters by Sean B. Carroll. Into the Jungle, Great Adventures in the Search for Evolution by Sean B. Carroll. And finally, Mouse Survivor's Tale, a graphic novel by Art Spiegelman. So pleased to bring these to you once again as a first read. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions by the board?
No, but I know normally for books, we usually come back for a second reading. For books, that's what we've done in the past.
Have we communicated that they are on display for review, the books? What's our process?
Yes,
usually?
they went out today in the newsletter that went out to the district at 4:30 this afternoon, so
There we
people
go.
can go if they'd like to.
Okay, thank you. And can you remind me why we don't have these on consent? I'm sure there's a process, right? This is our protocol of what we do with.
That's correct.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, this is not core curriculum. These are supplemental. And so in the particular the English language arts world, books themselves are not standards, and English teachers request different books to engage their students and to generate interest in those in reading in order to teach the standards. So these are optional supplemental novels that teachers can use, not core curriculum. I know that I didn't exactly answer your question, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. But just as a by way of process, they come to us. All these recommendations come as first and second reads.
Any additional comments, questions? Okay. As Mr. Peterson has suggested, we usually bring this back for a second read unless somebody wants to move forward.
Is that typical what we do for books? That's just normal practice. Okay. I'm okay with that. Doesn't mean we have to, but.
Okay, we'll bring this one back for a second read. Moving on to 14F, request consideration for new course, CTE, First Responders, Public Safety and Emergency Response, first reading. And Dr. Bayless, are you doing this, or you have?
Yeah, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Rini Rickard, who will talk about this grant-funded addition to our CTE course portfolio. Dr. Rickard.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah, can we just pause real quick? Is there a reason we don't have the APAC? I know that they're in our audience right now, that we can't bring them forward. It's just getting late, and I know we've already approved the board, and so I apologize for not thinking about this ahead of time, but as I'm looking out into the audience too.
Anyways. Trustee Callahan, you identified the reason why we wouldn't. We did not take the opportunity earlier to reorder the agenda.
My apologies.
Ready to move on? Dr. Rickard.
Trader course for our new public safety and first response pathway at Buena High School. This is, as you know, a result of our $1 million grant for this pathway, and this section and all of that goes with it will be funded through that grant. I sent to you a board letter last week with a little bit of information, but just wanted to remind you that a concentrator course in a CTE pathway is the first of two. So this is the concentrator that we have written, and we'll be writing the capstone in the next year. This course was created with input from our stakeholders, including parents, students, teachers, and our community partners, our law enforcement partners, and it was a very robust experience and very well received. There's a lot of excitement about this. The topics, as I shared with you, include law enforcement topics, fire service, emergency medical services. So this is the first course that would prepare students to then branch out into where they would like to be for a career. So we're super excited, and this is here for you for a first reading, and we'll be bringing it back to you on May 9th.
Or maybe not.
We have questions for Dr. Rickard.
Yeah, just a quick question. and I asked Dr. Castro already told us me, but I just want to kind of make it clear. Ventura and Pacific have access to this course, and it lines up with the. Yeah, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I omitted that. So as you know, Buena has created a bell schedule that now aligns with Ventura's, and then Pacific is a little more flexible, and so is Foothill. So absolutely, this is going to be multi-site available to all of our students, and that is what we're trying to do with all of our CTE pathways. So we're starting with this one and with our farm one. Robotics already is in this this arena, and we're hoping that our kids can go across the district. One of our plans is when we can find them, we are purchasing 2 vans, hopefully, through CTE funds, the allowable funds for this purpose, and those will be housed at a couple of our high schools so that we can move kids across the district and give them opportunities. I mean, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Well, 2 things. I'm excited that it's funded, and I think we're going to have, we had a story from VASE about one of our students on the way. I think, you know, if this gets approved, we'll have more stories like that, maybe this program can actually help save more lives because we'll have more students trained.
Thank you.
I would actually, do you have questions? No. I would actually like to extend a motion for approval and to bypass the second read for this course.
Beat you to it. Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
14G, request board approval for proposed deletions and additions to board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits related to educational services, human resources, business services, and the superintendent's office. This is a first read. Dr. Castro?
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Dannenberg. Before we get into this, first, there's a name that we don't get a chance to praise very often, Rose Ramirez. Yeah, so those of you who know her, hopefully she is not up watching this right now, and someone will have to tell her that we thanked her for this. She was instrumental in organizing staff and, of course, being responsive to board comments and questions. This process could not have gone smoother with she led this, so I just want to thank her. In terms of being responsive to the interest of time with our AAPC presenter, this is an opportunity that we have. The board was really responsive in providing us questions. We have a spreadsheet of all these questions, some of which we've received even up through yesterday and today. Perhaps this is an opportunity, as this is a first read, to share any additional questions that haven't been shared. We can make sure to note any questions that we have, but I do want to make sure that if you want to move forward, we can absolutely engage in a dialogue about that. But if it is important for us to potentially bring forward our AAPC sooner, this is one way to do that.
You know, as being the new kid on the block here, this has been more of, it was basically a stack that big. Yeah, it was a lot, but it was a learning experience for me as a new trustee. So even that was wonderful. So I didn't have very much to give as far as critique and questions regarding it because it's all new to me. However, I just want to note that my, I guess it's not a committee member, but a partner in that area of educational services is not here. That's Sabrina Rodriguez. So I just want to make that aware that she may have some questions for us, even though she submitted some, I imagine.
I personally would appreciate a second read just for timing and to really do a thorough component of my own ones that I was assigned, including I know that there was some that were just updated and it happened to coincide over spring break. So I would appreciate the time and for the second read. So I personally am in proposal for giving us more time.
I'm fine with a second read.
Okay, I'm fine with second read too. The only thing I'd like to say is staff did an excellent job in having these prepared and going through the things that were there that they had to do so that we didn't have to read a bunch of stuff and make a bunch of decisions. They had done most of that themselves already, which is very good. I've dealt with board policies for years, and this is the best first read we could have on it. So we'll bring it back for a second read at the next time.
Shout out to Rose Ramirez.
Yeah. Hey. Okay, on to item 14H, Superintendent Annual Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee. What we've done in the past is 2 members of the board have been an ad hoc committee to gather input from the board. You know, we'll be going through a process with a consultant from CSBA, and then we'll get input from the other board members. In the past, it has been Velma and myself doing it for the last 4 years. President Rodriguez has suggested that I do it 1 more year and train somebody else to take on it, but if a couple of you want to step forward, I can still train you if what we've done in the past, and you can do it. So it's the pleasure of the board what you would like to do, who you'd like to have on this subcommittee. Did you want to make any comments, Dr. Castro?
Only that I hear you trying to get out of it, and I think the full reflection of what the conversation with President Rodriguez is that you would do that side by side, but it's the board prerogative. In terms of first read versus second read, just something to be mindful of currently in coordination with our CSBA representative. That final evaluation is scheduled for, is it May 16th, right? So that is 1 week after the May 9th meeting. So it appears, at least on this item, there is some time sensitivity to it because that ad hoc committee would need to be in coordination with our CSBA rep and other board members in sending out, gathering information, making meaning of that to be prepared for the evaluation on the 16th.
Well, I have 2 things. First, I nominate James, and we already discussed this. So I'm not just doing it, and I would move for approval.
Well, we need 2 members, just not 1, so.
Well, I thought it would be Sabrina, you and train.
No.
No.
It would be Jerry and James. Jerry stays on.
Oh, okay. I thought Sabrina was staying on.
Sabrina has not been on it.
Oh,
It
okay.
has always historically been, well, for several years, Jerry and Velma.
Okay, I guess I'll volunteer myself then. I didn't think I was going to be able. I volunteer with James. Yeah, me and James talked about this.
And they haven't talked to anyone else. Let me just be very clear.
As long as they haven't spoken with anyone
we talked
else,
about it right now in
that's
public.
Correct.
So I accept. And I also got some notes about our superintendent here. I'm just kidding.
No.
So we have a motion for Calvin and for James. Do we have a second for that motion?
I second, and you will train.
I would be happy to train.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Thank you. The vote is as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
And I just want to say this is it'll be a pleasure just to learn the process here. Just getting to know just everything about this district is fantastic. Oh, well, I will learn. And I just want to make sure that this committee will probably be held after work because during the day. Yep. Oh, thank you. I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, she was just saying, it was something you can do. It won't shouldn't it not interfere with your work, except for the day that we meet with a consultant, with the superintendent and that. So.
And I'll just state again that the training would have to be in a hypothetical environment that isn't specific to the evaluation because we need to have the 2 members making a recommendation to the rest of the body. So any kind of training that Dr. Dannenberg would do would be devoid of the actual context, right? So it would be talking about process only, not what the ad hoc committee would end up making a recommendation to the full board. And I will turn this over to Dr. Bayless and the rest of the team. Wonderful to have them here.
Agreed. Wonderful to have them here. I'd like to introduce Dr. Soledad Molinar, who will introduce our African American Parent Council and to give a report on their work. Welcome.
Thank you, members. Oh my goodness. The board, Superintendent Castro, it is a pleasure to be here this evening to present our African American Parent Council Advisory Report. This evening, you will get to hear about just the wonderful things that our AAPC has been leading, the events they've participated in, and just really leading the way for our students, staff, and community around the focus of our mission statement. This evening we have Robin Freeman presenting, who is our AAPC facilitator and also our academic coordinator. AAPC representatives Joe Richards, Bobby Richards, Lisa Oden-Kurtz, and Anastasia Poland. Also, I want to recognize Dana Lomax, who is not presenting this evening, but really has been a critical part of the work we've been able to do in AAPC, so I want to thank her as well. I would like to introduce Bobby Richards, who will begin with our mission statement.
Good evening. I'm going to jump right into it. So the mission statement for the African American Parent Council is a group of parents committed to holding VUSD accountable for nurturing students for academic success, promoting positive educational and social experience for our children, building relations within the community to support our children, celebrating the strengths and unique experiences of Black students in Ventura Unified School District. There's a year in review.
Good evening. I have to say I don't really miss this. I do not. Yes. Yeah, hold my hand. So basically, the year in review, we made recommendations to the board last year at the April 12th board meeting. The first recommendation was to have culturally sustaining practices that honor our students' identities and experiences, and we all recognize the fact that sometimes our students struggle to connect in schools, and sometimes actions are misunderstood or things are not recognized that need to be recognized. And so I think the more we as a district strive to develop practices that honor our students and value their identities and experiences, then it will be better. Number two, a greater representation in teachers, administrators, paraeducators, and counselors. And I know the challenge that goes along with this. I mean, just the challenge of anyone moving and living in Ventura County can be really, really difficult. But we want to continue to urge the district to both recruit and sustain the teachers that reflect the identities of our students. A protocol for dealing with derogatory language and acts. So this was a big item for our group, and we have some recommendations, and we have been implementing some things this year that we'll talk about a little later. And then district-wide participation in events and initiatives across all sites. And we struggle with this each year. There are some schools that don't do anything for African American History Month, and some schools that do, and so we really want to continue to encourage the district to encourage the leaders at the school sites to develop district-wide participation in those types of events.
Okay, so some accomplishments and reflections in this school year. The AAPC is still going strong. It is an accomplishment to have a space like the AAPC where we can have discussions and connect and advise with you, our VUSD partners. AAPC concerns about bias and racism. We need clear practices and procedures for when, clear practices and procedures. There's a work group that was created. A parent in the meeting mentioned one of their experiences with their student at a school where the student was told, you can't play on the swings because you're Black. Parents wanted to be contacted by administration and not getting this report from their children. So the ABAR, Anti-Bias, Anti-Racism Work Group, was start putting in the work. There are different social events that we have initiated, and that will be talked about a little later. Some include book club, you know, going to the bookstore, I mean. But that will be hit on more in a few minutes. For Black History Month, there was paint night, Black History Month ASB activities at high schools and 3 of the 4 middle schools. People in history, pictures on doors or something to create to put on doors to just acknowledge them. There was a Cal Poly San Luis Obispo field trip. Again, those things will be talked about later. HBCU, or Historically Black Colleges and University trip that a lot of Ventura Unified students attended. A district committee, AAPC representation, intentional inclusion of AAPC members to participate on district committees, and so we do have some of our members participating in PAC. Academic progress, monitoring, one-to-one case management is happening, and awareness that there is an adult besides the parent who is monitoring our students. It gives educators awareness and motivation. Let sites know that the district is monitoring students and wants them to do well. And then this strong two-way bridge between the AAPC and VUSD is just to know there's a safe place to communicate concerns and inform and discuss culturally responsive information, and to just build a strong relationship between VUSD and the AAPC. There's Robin.
Good evening. I co-signed with Joe. I really don't miss this. But thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight. One of the work groups that we created this year is focused on anti-bias and anti-racism. And this group consists of community members, parents, educators, and students. This recommendation came out of the recommendation to the board last year, which was a protocol for dealing with derogatory language and acts. And so one of the frameworks that we're using is from the Hanover Research on Anti-Racism and their discussion guide. And so our goal is to move our thoughts from the fear zone, where it's difficult for us to even talk about racism and race, to a growth zone where we make ourselves vulnerable, and we're able to acknowledge that we all have biases, right? But it's important to have an effective way to deal with it. So Anastasia is going to talk a little bit about some of the goals that we've come up with regarding this ABAR group.
Thanks, Robin. So our ABAR work group goals have been aligned with the board goal of shifting culture to be more loving, inclusive, and just in order to create school environments where all students feel safe, valued, and nurtured, and where all students feel that they belong and can thrive. And we have 3 objectives falling out of this these goals. The first one is take a proactive approach. Now, that looks like helping to create choices for administrators to clear expectations regarding anti-racism and anti-bias stances in our schools. We want to foster a network of district and community members to address particular issues and steer lessons and content for staff and students. It looks like providing professional training and learning at all levels about anti-bias and anti-racism. Number 2, we want to identify clear procedures for addressing biased/racist speech and harassment. That looks like staff training, PK through 12, communication to families, and communication to students. Number 3, we would like to make recommendations to revise the incident report that have a more restorative approach. That looks like supporting the students who have been harmed and are marginalized by current school structures, and it also provides support for students who have done harm. Okay, I'd like to pass it over to Robin.
So our first objective is setting the stage. And this would happen in August. This past August, there were some slides that were prepared for the opening of school meetings with students where the principals talk to students about how things are done at their respective schools. And so it includes clear expectations regarding anti-bias and anti-racism at their opening of school assemblies. The next thing was to create a list of guest speakers and assemblies to share with students, because this is it's a very sensitive topic for adults and students, and it's important that we all learn together. We want to promote and teach students to stand up to bias and racism with strategies such as Speak Up at School, and we've provided some of that information to the school sites. And then we're doing our own work at all levels regarding de-biasing and addressing bias and racism. Today, there was an educators workshop and then one for families led by Liz Kleinrock, who has written a book called Start Here, Start Now, A Guide to Anti-Bias and Anti-Racist Work in Your School Community. It was very interesting. We had an opportunity to explore some incidents that are real, that have occurred in schools across racial groups, LGBTQ, special education students, and it was amazing because we were asked to think about what our response would be to each of these situations. And we reflected and said very little because we're just not prepared yet to be able to deal with those incidents, as opposed to just calling it out and saying that wasn't nice, those things that you said, but explaining why it was a problem, why it shouldn't have been done, and what kind of hurt comes from that and what we should do instead. So it was very interesting, and the books have been provided for elementary sites, teachers and staff. So we're very excited about that, and I'm ready for my copy.
And so as you can see, we've been doing a lot of work around collaboration and training. And, you know, when I think about, you know, what's going on in our world today, you know, 60 years ago, we took students to North Carolina this year, and we went to North Carolina A&T. And at North Carolina A&T, there were 4 freshmen in 1960 who decided that they were going to go and they were going to integrate the eating counter at Woolworth. And, you know, we pointed out to our students while we were there is that these young men were 17, 18 years old, so they weren't much younger, weren't much older than what our students were on the tour, but they sat down at the counter and they started a national movement of integrating various businesses and agencies at that time. And when I thought about that, I think 1960, you know, a lot of our teachers were alive in 1960, you know, and so the ideas and the mind and the thought processes of those times, you know, we still have people in our system that were living during those days and that were in those times. And so what we're doing today is really important, and there are people who may not believe that there's a need for the work that we're doing today, but it is really absolutely needed. What we did, we identified some clear procedures for reporting, and we thought about the fact that, you know, a lot of people just don't know how to respond. You know, what do you do when someone says something racist to another student? And even as professionals and adults, you know, we all struggle with a response. And so we felt it was important to come up with a standard response that can be implemented by everyone in our system in all schools. And the staff here did a really good job of putting this together, and we've reviewed it as parents, and we've come up with responses for classified employees, certificate employees, for students and families, and also for administrators. And we also did this because we recognize that, you know, administrators, they don't really need another thing to do. You know, I mean, school administrators, especially elementary school administrators, they don't really need another thing to do. And so we wanted to do our best to make this user-friendly so that they would be able to do it with fidelity, but we felt it was very important that we were able to do it. So we will be able to give these instructions to staff, and as incidents occur on campuses, they can respond appropriately. And the good thing about this is it doesn't only work for African American students. It could work for students with special needs. It could work for gender issues. It could work for religious issues. Whatever the situation is, that this can work. And so we're very proud of this work. I'm still up there, right? I knew that. Yeah, and so we've done a lot of work in training, and this district, I'm very proud again of this district and the work that the district has done in trying to prepare and train people for anti-race, anti-bias and anti-racism ideology in the school system. You know, I believe that Ventura Unified is ahead of most districts, certainly within this county, and there's still work to be done. But as long as we're committed, and it's important to us, and I think I'm not sure who wrote "All We Need Is Love" in this document, but we had Dr. Bettina Love, who came to the district and did some training for us and helped us to understand. And as it was mentioned earlier, we all have biases that we picked up along the way. And the more that we recognize that, the more that we learn how to recognize it and address it and respond to it, then we could help those around us, and especially those who are charged with helping our most precious resource, which is our children. And so the more that we get educators to recognize the biases, know how to respond, and know how to respond when other people are displaying biases, then the better off they will be as they develop into adults and be running the world when we aren't able to anymore.
Okay, so there's a third objective, making recommendations for the incident report. I understand that a draft of the examples is in the board packet. But we updated the form to include anti-bias and anti-racism. We're working on that and steadily trying to bring it to fruition. There was also an update of the form to make it more restorative in practice, so that it's not. I know we've always talked about, and as a previous council, we always talked about restorative discipline for incidents, and so for this also there's a restorative aspect to it. Okay, Robin's back up.
So everything we talked about so far are recommendations, and as soon as we have a complete package, we will bring it forward to district administration and then to the board for approval. But it's taking a lot of work, and we're getting a lot of regular feedback and input from staff. So today we met with the middle school administrators, and they gave us some feedback. So again, as Joe and Bobby said, we want to make the process of recording this information as easy as possible. One of the roles that I have is monitoring the academic performance of the African American students in the district. And on this slide, this is just some data that we recovered from CDE, and it shows on the bottom row, statewide, we have almost 6 million residents, and 5% of them are African American. In Ventura County, we have 1.2% African American, and in Ventura Unified, 1%. So we're very consistent in the district with the county, and there are a number of reasons why that percentage is lower than statewide, and we know what some of those reasons are. The next slide, please. This shows the distribution of African American students across the district. As students merge into middle school and merge into high school, you can see that the numbers are higher. But no school had more than 60. And then going down into the elementary schools, you can see that the numbers are significantly smaller. So one of the things that I do after the first progress reports for elementary students and secondary students is from the list that I'm provided, I go and look at their report card grades and make a list of those students that I have concerns about. With the elementary students, it's much easier because the teachers have already identified which students need extra support. So are they receiving extra services from a reading specialist? Are they in MTSS or SST? So it's a little easier at the elementary level. Once we get to high school, the numbers are larger. And this is just, remember, 1% of the population at the high school. So if there are, for example, 10 students at one of the high schools that are in need of extra support, that's 1% basically of other students in the school who need support. So one of the things that we are able to offer is any additional support that students might need based on their academic performance. So most of my contact at the sites is with counselors at the secondary level and then principals at the elementary.
Hello, so my name is Lisa Odenkers, and one of the things that the AAPC provides are events for us to get together and foster community. And so in our December meeting, followed like the agenda of most of our meetings, where we have a monthly meeting, Robin shares an awesome book, we revisit our goals, we talk about events, cultural opportunities, and updates. And here's a picture of our December meeting where Robin is going over Kwanzaa. And so that was our first in-person meeting for the school year. And it was just a really fun event. Really educational. We were able to bring our families, so the kids really enjoyed, and it was educational for everybody because not all of us know about Kwanzaa or know enough about it. So that was a really fun event that we were able to do. Also, we got to go to the Timber Bookstore, which was really fun for our families to get together. For my family, I didn't know that Timber Bookstore existed. There were a lot of culturally represented books there, and it just felt really good to be there with community and know that we have a space. The district also was very generous and provided a book. Each child was able to get a book, and so that was pretty exciting for us, and that was very memorable. My daughter can't wait to visit again. I told her the district isn't going to provide a book, though. We were able to discuss at our next meeting what that experience was like. And as Robin stated earlier, you know, we're 1% of the population in the district here. So to get together and see so many different families that utilized this, it really helped to foster community. It was a really wonderful event, and I look forward to doing something similar. So up next, we had our trip, United by Excellence trip to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. And I am going to introduce Anastasia so she can share her daughter's experience.
Hello, back again.
So my daughter hadn't had a chance. We did go to the Timber Bookstore event, which was wonderful, and it was good to see all the littles and how excited they were. But this trip was, it was really something special, and I was really grateful that she could go on this trip. She came home and she said, you know, Mom, I've never had an experience where I was surrounded by so many people that look like me. And we had already done some college tours up north and some in Portland. And so, you know, she'd had a little bit of experience doing the tours, but she's definitely now going to apply to Cal Poly. She was super impressed that the mayor came, and she said she was African American. And she talked about, you know, sort of the reputation that Cal Poly had had and all of it, everything, which was very white. And you know, what they were doing to make a difference and hire new instructors and bring some diversity on campus. And she just felt very welcomed, and it was really great for her to get to know kids throughout the district on this field trip. And so it gave so much, I felt like, to every kid that went on the trip. So I really appreciated that experience for her.
Thank you for sharing your experience, Anastasia. We also had the event during Black History Month with Hip Hop Mindset. They did a class, and as you can see, all the smiling faces, everybody really enjoyed themselves. We weren't able to make that event, but it was, from all accounts, a really wonderful event. And I just want to say that being in the AAPC allows me to know about these different events that go on. I'm sure that these different organizations do their best to put the information out there, but the AAPC, as I've stated earlier, has really helped to foster community here in Ventura and here in the district. So finally, we have the Historically Black Colleges and Universities tour, and I am going to hand that over to Bobby and Joe because they were the organizers and chaperones of that event.
This is the 17th year that we've participated in the HBCU tours. It's something that's done out of an organization called Pinkert Innovative Enterprises. And not only have we coordinated, although I don't think the pictures came up, coordinated, but we also chaperoned, and we're getting a little too old for that. And we had 38 high school age students that travel with us to North Carolina. Normally we go to 2 states and visit between 8 to 10 schools within those 2 states, including a PWI, or a predominantly white institution. But because North Carolina has so many HBCUs in that state, we only go to North Carolina alone. It was good to have VUSD students to also travel with us. We had 5 VUSD students to also go with us, 1 from Ventura High School and 4 from Buena High School. As a matter of fact, one of the seniors, Shanice Ware, that attends Buena High School, we always encourage seniors to bring transcripts just in case they might like something about the neighborhood, the school, what the university has to offer. And Shanice absolutely brought her transcripts and turned them into 2 schools where she was automatically accepted with scholarships already offered to her. And so the whole group was just excited about this kind of thing even happens. You know, so it gives students a good opportunity. Very few of the students know each other, except if they go to the same school, and that's very rare. Usually the trip is word of mouth, and so when we bring this information to the AAPC, some of the families do take advantage of allowing their students to go with us. But usually by the time we get to the airport and wait for our red eye, the students are well versed in who's who and who they go, hang out with. So it's always a good experience.
The other thing that the students benefit from is a lot of these students have never been on airplanes. Some of them have never traveled without their parents. And then it's interesting because they share a room, and we have 3 to a room, and we stay in suite rooms where there's 2 beds and a couch. And so they stay in suite rooms, but these suite rooms are more than likely smaller than their bedrooms at home. And so they're learning how to share space, and then they have to learn how to manage their money. They have to be on a budget, and so that they learn all of these things. And then I just want to give a special shout out to Buena High School, who worked really hard to send their students and sponsor some of their students. Marcia, what's her last name? Amagazzi. Really, really worked hard to support those students, and the school as a whole worked hard to support those students. I want to publicly recognize that, and the students that they sent really benefited from it. So we appreciate, again, working with Ventura Unified School District. And this tour, these students will meet people from all over California, and we've done this for 17 years, and we run into students who are still friends with people that they met on the tour, and we've run into students that went to the universities. Most of the students don't go to HBCUs, but it gives them an exposure. And then one last thing is, the best part of the tour for me is every once in a while, or at least 3 or 4 people on the tour, when the tour begins, they are not really thinking about college. But by the time the tour ends, I can see the light come on, and they kind of get that aha moment, and okay, I can do this. And it basically changes their trajectory. And when they go back to their school, they refocus and they get on it, and next thing you know, they're on their way to college.
I want to say we went to Fayetteville State University, and I know it's bedtime, and they had what was called the NC prom. It wasn't the Promise. It was probably the Promise, where a freshman's tuition, which included room and board, books, was $2,500.
And that's out of state.
Out of state.
In state, it's $500 a year.
So a lot of students
Yes.
like, I can do that,
Yeah.
you know. So it was just a good experience overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby and Joe. So finally, to wrap up my portion, we have some upcoming events before the school year ends that we're really looking forward to. We are trying to organize a trip to Charles Drew University, which is the only West Coast historically backed HBCU. And so we're really excited to get that. We're trying to figure that out. And then we are trying to figure out when to have another in-person meeting, and something like a cooking or a paint night or bowling or something. We always try to end the year with a in-person like fun meeting, minus the 2 years we were in COVID. So we are going to wrap up the year strong. And before I go, I just want to say how important this group has been to myself and to my family. So important that I am here at 10 o'clock at night. I work in downtown LA, so I get up very early to try to beat traffic, and this group, I cannot express enough how much they've fostered community and helped us to feel like we are a part of this town and this school district.
So just to kind of close out and revisit just some of our measurable outcomes, which we will continue. We had them last year, and they continue to be the same in the future year. Continue to provide focus on academic achievement, so continue to provide progress monitoring for our students, analyzing the data. I know that Robin has already talked about just ways she's excited about modifying our progress monitoring for the upcoming year. Number 2, practices and procedures. When we talked about implementation and review, this last year was really focused on providing that feedback, coming up with what would those practices and procedures look like, and looking forward to this year, looking at implementation and having a chance to really kind of review it together and pilot it. So we start the new year off with professional development and a really strategic focus on our ABAR practices, or ABAR response. Number 3, literacy, continue our focus on literacy, intentional and strategic purchase of diverse literature. Number 4, humanizing the learning experience. Just like Robin mentioned, our focus today on professional learning, working with outside agencies, and a focus on culturally sustaining practices. Number 5, continue to have those opportunities to connect. Our potlucks, our field trips, social events, and then possibly a chance to connect countywide. We've been talking about having a student forum where we can invite speakers and really focus on just learning for our students as they are in high school and going off to college, and possibly could we do something like that at the county level. So we look forward to that as well. And then just continue to expand our group, include families, engage them in the work that we're doing, and just really increasing those affinity spaces across the sites. Finally, our recommendations to the board for 23-24, culturally sustaining practices that honor our students' identities and experiences. Continue our focus, greater representation in teachers, administrators, paraeducators, counselors, and staff, with efforts not only to recruit but to retain our employees currently. So looking at focus groups, exit interviews of employees who possibly leave. What is the reason why? How can we possibly retain our Black employees in the future? And then I know we're working closely with Ms. Wolowitz to be able to do that and really give feedback and talk about future practices. Number 3, implement those practices and procedures created in the ABAR work group for dealing with derogatory language and acts. We've been to elementary principals meeting, assistant principals meeting today, like Robin mentioned, the middle school principals, and we have received very positive feedback. We've made changes to the incident forms. We've talked about professional learning. We already have volunteers to be able to pilot this new incident form, so that way we can come back together again. They can give us their feedback, and again, to be able to begin with a new incident form and preventative strategies and professional learning for the new year. And then finally, the district-wide participation in events and initiatives across all sites. We're continuing to focus on that. I know we had a chance at our elementary principals meeting to talk about just really strategic and intentional events that supported our Black History Month initiatives, and just even Nancy Kellogg, our district art specialist, focused on 2 Black artists and just their work and how students were able to replicate that work and learn about the history, highlighting Africans Americans in STEM, and then our door decorating contest continues to expand. So I just want to say thank you. It truly is an honor to work with our group. It gives me chills to see just how much we have done, or the group has really done over the years, and what a pleasure it is to work with everyone. So thank you for your support.
Well, actually, I would like to say thank you, because I got to see from the start to now, and it's amazing all the work you've done. And if you can believe that in the first couple of meetings of the AAPC, we actually had people that was in opposition of having the group. From having someone have the opposition into what they're doing now, I think is amazing, and I cannot reiterate, when people can see people that look like them in leadership positions, it increases the chances that they're going to become in leadership positions. So I foresee someone coming out of the AAPC being a teacher and an administrator in the future because of all the work that you guys are doing. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say that thank you for all you're doing, all the hard work. I love seeing those pictures of those kids. You know, big smiles on their faces. That just speaks volumes. And providing the access for our students who are maybe not would have had that to go to college and to look at Cal Poly and see, you know, this is a possibility for me. So I appreciate y'all doing that, and thank you so much for all you do.
Yes, I too just want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate the hard work you do. It's really showing off, and it's paying off for our students, and that's what we're all about. Thank you.
You know, this is it is so fantastic to see the work you're driving, but also leading. To see that the anti-racial and anti-bias work is coming from the AAPC. This is work that we need for seeing all students throughout our community. And as you shared that, it is starting and led by your organization and your committee. And so thank you. And looking around to the faces who I know, many of you, it is no surprise, but please, anything we can do to continue to help, to support, because I would love to see the anti-racial, the anti-bias training. I mean, we need it for our own board, but we need it across the district. This is a conversation that has been long needed, long necessary, and I appreciate your bold and courageous leadership to bring it forward. And we did, Calvin and I were at CASA this year, and we did brag on the AAPC. He could speak personally about it and what we're doing at Ventura Unified. So thank you. Your work is seen, it's recognized, and please know that we support you in anything you need.
I'll just take this opportunity to add our appreciation for staff, that we have people who are our critical friends as we improve as an organization perspective, to have partners who have a deep love and appreciation for what we do, but also recognition that we can get better. So thank you for being our trusted colleagues in this process.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 15B, summer school. Dr. Bayless.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Dawes to provide an update for summer school, which is quickly approaching. Dr. Dawes.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Castro, everyone still remaining. It is my pleasure to be here this evening just to give you an update about Summer School 2023. It is grounded in the LCAP goals, particularly the first one that has to do with increasing student achievement and really decreasing achievement gaps. It's also a good place to provide a safe and secure environment for students and to help mitigate any summer learning loss that might happen. The process actually began on my second day of work last year when I was hired in late July. We went to the high schools and did focus groups with the administrators and office staffs that were there. We also did surveys of anyone who worked for summer school last year to get a sense of what has worked well, what hasn't worked well, what could be improved upon. And so the design began back then, and we refined it a little bit throughout the fall with the integration of pretty much all the departments. I'm not thinking of a department that wasn't included. We were able to send out a save the date during elementary parent conferences, and then we had our interdepartmental meeting in January of this year, and I know Ms. Wolowitz worked really hard to get MOUs with BUEA and VESPA in a timely manner so that we could know our salary schedule and begin the hiring process. We've been working on designing curriculum and planning instruction since early February with our amazing TOSA team. And in February, we hired the administrators for the summer programs, and we sent invitations to ESY, Extended School Year. And that's all headed up by Mr. Nick Vallejos, who became a daddy today. So very exciting. He would have been here otherwise, but he had obviously more important things to do. And then I'll get more into the budget and MOU later on. The process is continuing. In March, we had all the families who were interested express their interest through Google Forms, one for elementary, one for middle, and one for high school. And we've been hiring certificated staff. Right now we're hiring classified staff. And we're in the process of getting all those Google interest forms into queue so that we have a technology, so that we have it occurring. And we're getting parents to, we'll be sending out the master agreements and the paperwork that parents need to fill out. We're doing all the final details right now. That includes everything from crossing guards to curriculum orders, transportation, technology. There's a little bit of everything that goes on in summer school. It is really school, and then it's in the summer. The day after regular school gets out, we're going to train our elementary teachers, and then the following Tuesday, right after Juneteenth, summer school itself begins. And you can see how that cycle will continue. Here's what we have going on this summer. We have an Impossible Science Camp, which is a combination of science and magic. That's with Justin Latimer. It's for all of our elementary students who are currently in expanded learning. And we can handle up to 400 students in there, and we're full at this time. We also have expanded learning camps going on at West Park throughout the entire summer, week by week. Very popular woodshop camp, filled up in 3 minutes. And so it's, we were glad.
I sent out the message and didn't get my daughter in.
Yes, my niece was on the waiting list, and I had reminded her mom 5 minutes beforehand. Shout out to Jen right there. And then we have a health program online for high schoolers. The month of July is full with elementary, middle, and high school programs going from 7:30 or 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening, depending on the grade span. At high school, it's credit recovery. It's also a lot of initial credit, so that kids will have the opportunity to take potentially 2 electives or something of interest during the school year. The array of offerings this year is quite broad. Today I was working with somebody to set up field trips to the Broad Museum and art museums, and the offerings continue to grow. And then in August, we have 2 more weeks of elementary and middle school from 7:30 in the morning till 6 in the evening, or 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening, depending on the site. So people were wondering how the registration occurs. It primarily occurred, this is for general education, ESY was, extended school year for students with IEPs was handled directly with the students because it had been determined by their IEP teams that they were eligible for ESY. So then they got direct communication and then signed up directly. For all others, they have been signed up this spring. High school credit recovery, we enrolled students at the same time that we were enrolling them for fall 2023, sorry. And so that was taken care of pretty early on, and that occurred when students were registering for fall. They could also realize, okay, I'm deficient 5, 10, whatever credits, get signed up for those classes right away. Then in March is when the more optional summer school registration occurred through Google Forms. Elementary, middle, and high school versions. Students could enroll themselves, their parents could enroll them. And we're in the process right now, basically everyone who enrolled prior to March 31st is in. We're just in the process of building the programs big enough to accommodate all the demand. And we'll be getting the word out to them momentarily about what further paperwork is needed to complete their registration process. So how many kids are enrolled? Right now we have 84 in the woodshop. That's capacity, 28 per week for 3 weeks. Impossible Science Camp, this is as of last week, 369. You can see the different numbers. Elementary summer school is over 1,000. Middle school is at, I think, an all-time high with 269. We're at only 1 site this year in Acapa. Credit recovery had 2,060 course requests, which represents a semester is a request, so approximately half that many students. Initial credit, we had 737 students sign up to take either health and college and career seminar or world history or U.S. history or economics or government so that they can clear their social studies out of the way and take something else in the new school year. In ESY, we have 140 so far, and our transition partnership program is running this summer, but we don't have the enrollment just yet. So right now, we're at over 3,600 students enrolled for summer.
Dr. Castro, it's 10:30.
Trustee Forsythe, thank you for the reminder. We expeditiously moved through our non-discussion for board policies. We just wanted to take this opportunity that we have a policy that talks about ending time. So we're just going to use this as just a kind of a first-time approach to extending our board meeting. So the bylaw basically states that we can do a one-time extension. So you can vote to extend the meeting to 11 o'clock if we think we finish by then. Feels like that we're safely within that time frame. So if someone, Vice President Dannenberg, if you would like to take a motion from someone to extend the meeting past 10:30, and we can continue to do so. We're just formalizing a process that we're refining our processes that we really haven't had in place yet. So we're just.
I will take a motion to extend the meeting.
A motion to extend the meeting to 11 p.m.
Okay.
Second.
Please vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
So that means we have 30 minutes to really get through this agenda then. And then we can't extend it farther than this. We have to.
That's is how it's written.
Let's do it.
Let's see what happens.
You hear that, Dr. Thomas? Gotta go.
Now, in the past, unified school districts such as ourselves did not earn ADA for summer school. It was simply an expense. Now, it was obviously a worthwhile expense for all the reasons we listed before, as far as credit recovery and school connectedness and things of that nature. But nevertheless, it was an expense. And so depending on the scope of the program every year, the district would spend $800,000 to up to a couple $1 million for these services. In the last 4 years, we partnered with the charter program Learn for Life, and they have been able to hire our teachers. Our teachers do the instruction, but then they pay our teachers at the agreed upon rate. And so it ends up being kind of a pass-through. There's approximately a couple $100,000 that is not covered by them with a few different job categories. But by and large, the agreement with them this year is $2.6 million. And so it reimburses us for all those services so that we can provide all the morning summer school offerings in July. So that's a significant partnership. And it has allowed us to, I'm sorry, it was 2.3 million. I was thinking it was 2.6. It gives us more stability in our planning so that we can know how many people to hire, we can afford it. And then that allows us to offer more initial credit options, which is really key for the high schools to be able to not just focus on remediation, but really to focus on acceleration. And the staff appreciates the higher salary that they're able to earn. And that way we're able to attract enough staff to offer these programs. So it's a win-win-win. The opportunities that we have, we're really focusing on our early literacy program, particularly in elementary this summer. We have a wonderful TOSA team working on developing curriculum right now, and we're working with the summer school administrators on that as well. We have one elementary school, Will Rogers, which is focused entirely on two-way immersion. So they're bringing students, I should have mentioned, we're also providing transportation as needed this summer. And so students from Montalvo and Sheridan Way and Will Rogers will all be able to go to Will and get advanced two-way immersion skills throughout the summer. We have a number of STEAM projects and partnerships that we're doing. And then this is just a great part of our overall credit recovery strategy. And as I mentioned, supporting electives programs. The challenge that we all anticipate is to staff this as fully as it needs to be. So that's going to be a big endeavor. And we're working on it from many, many facets, but that is definitely the challenge. And this couldn't be done without a great team. You can see it's every department. I recognize that the writing is small, but I'd like to give a special shout out to the call center, to Kimberly and Lori, who really have been very active every day. Yeah. And I'm happy to entertain questions, but not for too long, because 11 o'clock is coming.
Are there any burning questions by the board? Hearing none, we'll move on.
I just would like to make a comment. I'm going to do it quickly. A statement. Yeah, it's you, Dr. Dawes. This is fantastic, and thank you for being so gracious in commending and showing appreciation for this whole team here. But we know that it is through your leadership. I was actually conferencing with Dr. Castro on my one-on-one, and I said, "Do we really see this summer school?" Because I was going to ask when we're going to be talking about it, and sure enough, it's already planned, done, delivered. I missed, and I'm on the waiting list for woodwork as well. I couldn't do it, get internet from the plane, and this whole thing, and I was out. But this is fantastic. And then to learn about this innovative strategy with Learn for Life for $2.3 million, now you're also just a brilliant enterprise. So next up is CBO. Thank you. Oh, he's the one who shared it with you. No, it's a teamwork, but thank you.
Any others?
Yeah, I just like that you said after Juneteenth, so that was kind of cool. I heard that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dawes. Now we can move on to consideration for review of the K-12 school plans for student achievement 2022-23 school year. Dr. Bayless.
Yeah, thank you. This is the yearly submission to the board of our single school plans, and although not required by law, it's good practice to bring them before you. And typically it's done earlier in the year. We had some challenges with respect to timing with our Envision partners, and overall, we're moving this process forward in time. And I really want to appreciate Asan and his team and helping us, because a lot of this is budget-based. And so we expect to be doing this work this year. Excuse me. We expect to be doing SIPSA writing and reviews at this time next year for the coming year. Typically what happens is we bring before you the SIPSA for this current year, and it's 3/4 of the way done. So we're trying to shift our timelines to best practice, which is pushing it a full year in advance, and our principals are doing a great job of working with their school site councils, getting updated budgets, planning for next year, and so we look forward to a better timeline in years to come. But nonetheless, bring them before you, and that you had them attached in your materials. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 16, Conference Human Resources Report for Williams Act. Oh, this one's quick. Very good.
I said it's my favorite. It'll be yours too. Pleased to present that for this quarter ending on March 31st, no complaints were filed.
Thank you. I don't assume there's any questions for, okay. Okay, on to the consent calendar. Any need to pull any items 17 through 20? Hearing no need to pull any item.
I just had 20A, 20B, and 20A, 20C, and 20D. But they were just quick questions.
Ask the questions.
Okay.
And then we can take it all as one motion.
Okay, so I can do it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So 20A is the enterprise fund. I was just when you put the information and then the subsequent document, but if you can just in short. Does that mean therefore it's now an official business?
The intent of opening an enterprise fund is so they could, that's the goal, so they could self-support their operation.
Okay, was this always part of the plan to have this enterprise fund in the implementation?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, unless,
yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And then
So, yes, all items that you see on this agenda or previous agendas going back to 2022, we're able to go back and analyze and make sure that they fall within the proper expenditures that fall under the facilities, the Bond Oversight Committee and our facilities master plan for the bond projects. And then if at that time it falls within that category, what we'll do is refund this specific fund back. So most of these funds are coming out of Fund 21 and not the general fund. So we would be reimbursing back that proper fund.
okay, so there's still a possibility that it could be.
That's going to be a reality soon. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe in a future board meeting, we can even like highlight that. It's just some good news.
I think, yeah, what's the intention is to go through our financial ledgers and go through all the expenses from 2022 forward and to go through and identify and see what projects and expenditures that we could get refunded back.
Thank you for your grace.
No problem.
I did not share this ahead of time, so I appreciate it.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 17 through 20.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's late. Motion carries 4-0.
I'm sure she appreciated not being forgotten. Okay. Board reports. Do we have any board reports at this late hour?
Vice President Dannenberg, just real quickly, the separate item consents the consideration of board meeting minutes, item 21A.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
My apologies for overseeing that. Board reports. Anybody have a report they'd like to make?
I do not.
I'll defer until next meeting.
Hearing none, we'll move on to coming events.
On the screen, you'll see the list of coming events. I don't have the handout in front of me, so I'm trying to go in between my transitions. Yeah.
So
can you, Marianne, can you do that? Thank you.
So we have the LCAP Advisory Committee meeting happening on April 19th. Teacher of the Month celebration in Elmhurst, April 20th. DLAC happening April 20th. Special Education District Advisory Committee meeting April 21st. African American Parent Committee meeting April 26th. Parent Advisory Committee meeting May 2nd. All VUSD Art Show May 25th. And the VUSD Retirement Celebration, which I believe will be here on May 30th at 3:30.
Thank you. And now future board items. Dr. Castro?
Board, the one item that we initially planned to have on today's agenda, but realized how lengthy it already was a topic focused on safety protocols and procedures. So we'll be planning to add that in May.
Okay, thank you. Any board superintendent comments? Hearing none. Any need to go to closed session? No. No, okay. And then I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
And Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes,
Thank you.
we
Motion
are adjourned,
carries.
and thank you to TDC Studios for all their time doing the filming. Good night.